Welcome and Merry Christmas, you lovely people, or whatever holiday it is that you celebrate. We're here, it's the Yuletide, it's our Christmas sale, hence the jumper, and it's time for you to treat yourself or your loved one to a classic car, bicycle, or motorcycle. I'm going to steam straight in today. Before I do that, make sure you've liked, subscribed, rung that bell. And if you're clever, you know the drill. This is Wednesday, you're getting all of these with 3 days to go. So you can speak to your insurer, speak to Kurt at Fast and Funded, make sure you've got a finance quote if you want to buy a big ticket item, and then you can bid with pleasure and with confidence on Saturday. So this is a 1974 Peugeot 304 S Cabriolet. And we love to use this phrase, when was the last time you saw one of those? I can't even remember the last time I saw one of these. Aren't they fantastic? They only did 836 of these in the UK in the 70s, so you're not going to see many in period. You're going to see even less now. It was driven all the way here, 140 miles to the showroom, which does wonderful things for me. 12 entries in the service book. Purchased by the vendor in 2022 for the sum of £10,250. I can tell you now, people, you won't have to pay that to buy this, because he's feeling generous. He's actually lowered the reserve to less than that. So you could buy this. We've estimated this somewhere between 6 and 7. And I'm struggling to think of a more fun, cute, cuddly, and get let out of the traffic lights way to drive around when the weather's nice. They're pretty from the front. What I really like about these, they've almost got a bit of a mini boat tail. If you come around the back, Fraser, it's almost a bit Alfa-esque at the back. I don't know if this was a pin-in Farina design, but it's definitely in the style of. So they're just really nice. There's not really a lot to crib on this car. The paintwork is very good. The interior is pretty decent. There's a little tear, if you look, on the passenger seat. So budget yourself a tiny bit of money to sort that out. And that's about it. If I was being super pedantic, which you can't really be on a £6,000 or £7,000 car, there's just the lightest bit of lacquer flatness, but that will actually mop a polish on the bonnet. It's a super straight, super presentable car that you never see. It isn't going to be enormous amounts of money. I cannot fault that in any way. It's even got, and this is always a wonderful detail for me, the correct raised letter reflective plates that just came out in the early 70s. People were starting to get into those. That just look so proper. It's one of the things we always did on salvage, was to make sure the car had the right plates. Doesn't it sit well? Doesn't it sit well? What a beautiful thing. £6,000 or £7,000 plus your bits, you could own that car. Now, a car that I would very much like to own, and I have had many, many examples of, and still do have one of, is this, the Classic 900. What I love as a Saab aficionado, Saab enthusiast, someone that used to work for Saab in the 1990s, finally, the Classic 900 is really starting to get the appreciation it deserves. It's a brilliant classic car, not only because they're very practical. This has got one of the biggest boots you've ever seen, and it's a hatchback. They're very safe, of course, they're very usable. You could, in theory, daily drive a Saab 900. Now, I like this one a lot. Great colour. It's got the buffalo leather as well. If you look inside, just look at that. Just look at the thickness of the doors. If you've never seen a 900 of this area, don't forget they're basically a 60s derived design, these. And that's how thick the doors were. Saab was so ahead of the game. Automatic heated seats. It's got leather. But this is a light pressure turbo. So the range topper was the T16S. They had a big turbo which had a little bit of lag. They had 175 horsepower. These were the light pressure turbo. They had 150. But what you could do, if you were clever, was take it to Abbott Racing. They would put a charge cooler on, mess about with a boost. You then had about 175, 180 horsepower, so more than the T16S. But because it was a smaller turbo, no lag. So in many ways, an Abbott Racing tuned 900S Aero is a better car than a 16S. This one's got some very, very choice extras. It's got the Aero alloys off the 9000 Aero with the nut covers on, so they're the more expensive wheels. You can pay 1,500 quid for a set of those now. It's got the walnut dash, which is a very rare, very expensive option. It's got the rear wash wipe, which, believe it or not, is the holy grail in classic 900 terms. So it's just all the things. We've had a lot of interest in this car, as you can imagine, not least of all from me. We've estimated them at £8,000 to £9,000. And I think it will make it, if I'm honest. It's just lovely. Absolutely phenomenal. Have a look. There's only 83 of those left on the roads in the UK. Isn't it brilliant? Trying to just say, what's to do? Paintwork's not bad. It's not perfect. It's had paint on the front. You know, showing me a car of this age that hasn't had some paint. It's just really nice, presentable car that won't cost a load of money. Just great. Super straight. Come and have a look at all of these. Obviously, I try to give you in a few minutes my impression of these cars. This is not an exhaustive walk around. What we do for all of you, there are pictures on there, descriptions. If you want any of the team to walk you through any of the cars in detail, please give us a call for that. If you spin around, Fraser, We've got history files on every single car in the room. There's Sam having a quick look. And what we try to give you is many, many days. This is one of the advantages of being a fixed venue auction house. We have so many days for you to come and view these cars. 4 days, in fact. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning before we start auctioneering. So please come and satisfy yourself as the condition, the description. I do my best in a few minutes, but always make sure you've had a look before you buy. 1972 BMW 2002 Ti, or TII actually. This car is beautiful. You might remember, if you are a regular visitor or viewer of our channel, we sold this car a little while ago, about 2 years ago. And what I love is that someone's had their fun with this car and they want something else. So they've put it into the auction and they're going to buy something else instead. It's beautiful, isn't it? It was recently restored with just no mileage since it was done. And it's one of those restorations wherever you look, it's so beautifully finished. Everything about it, the interior, the paintwork, the wheel restoration, the engine bay restoration. 2019 it was done, and it was done expensively. I think we could say it's a right-hand drive UK car, round rear light model, which is the one that everybody wants. They're just so much prettier if you look at the back. It's got the Marl bottle top wheels. Car's awesome anyway, but that's one of my favourite super rare BMW wheels, which is so period perfect, just the right size, 13 inch. It's only had 5 owners, and as you might expect, there is a pile of invoices with this car. It's just beautiful. What a pretty thing. Inca orange. This wasn't originally an Inca orange car. When it was restored, it was totally colour changed, but the car was stripped with air shell. So it is, everywhere you look, it's been done to such a ridiculous standard. It would probably cost you about 40 or 50,000 pounds to build a car to this standard in the current economic climate. You could buy that somewhere in the late 20s. There's nothing to do, just nothing to do other than come around the front, Fraser, and have a look. Just how pretty is that? And don't forget, really, with the O2s, this is BMW defining and learning what they were as a brand. Everyone knows now BMW make fantastic executive compact saloon cars with a little bit of go and fantastic handling. That was the car that taught them what to do. That's the car that really defined the BMW brand, and they're just making derivatives of today. A lot to love there. This is pretty, isn't it? Series Land Rovers, we know, are always good news. Everyone loves a Series Land Rover. Series 1, of course, is the one that everybody wants because it's the genesis. It's, again, the start of the brand. A little common theme here. You get the inboard lights, which look so fantastic. And this is the lights behind the grille, which is very early. So this is a 49. So you're only talking 4 years after the war. And this is really quite an early Series Land Rover from the second year of production. So it's a resto mod. So what's nice about this is you're getting a really early one, but it's had some tasteful modifications and things that make it more usable. I don't know if you've ever driven an early Series 1. They are beautifully characterful, I think that's fair to say. But would you want to do a long journey or do loads of miles in one? Probably not. This one has a 300 TDI engine in, so maybe you would. It's going to be a little bit faster, a little bit more economical, a little bit nicer to live with. It's also got a fully synchromesh gearbox, which you could argue is cheating, but I think I'd live with it. The other thing as well, because it has got these resto mod items, it's going to make it a little bit cheaper. And this is what I love about resto mod or tastefully modified cars. They don't really spoil the character of the car. What they do is they make it much nicer, much easier to use. If you look as well, undrilled front wings, which is quite a rarity on these. It's been with the current owner since 2015, so almost 10 years with our current owner. It's got a new canvas bikini hood, which looks really nice. And it's done the London to Brighton Land Rover run. Just a load of cool stuff. It's not concours, of course not, because it's what it is. But what it is very tidy and presentable. I think you should be okay. Technically speaking, a really pedantic MOT tester might have you for the tyres sticking out, but I think it'd have to be a very bored MOT tester for doing that. So all the bits you like of a Series 1, all the bits you like of the later models, mashed together into this wonderful cocktail of incredibly stylish, very usable, and again, just the right amount of pattern if you look inside. Just these seat backs, like these fighter seats. So good, aren't they? So it is a 3-seater, and then of course you can get your kids in the back as well. What a lot of fun. What would you pay for that? £25,000 to £27,000. Either keep it as it is, or you could continue to go down the road of doing light and tasteful modifications. Talking of which, how would you like a Range Rover? You may have seen the Lens Auto video on this. If not, do watch it on YouTube. It's very, very good. We do love a Vogue SE here at Manor Park Classics. To me, it is the ultimate soft roader. the ultimate daily driver, and it's the ultimate old money car. I defy you to arrive anywhere in an old 80s Range Rover, whether that's a shoot, whether that's a football game, whether that's a trip to Harrods, and park outside and not look like you're supposed to be there. This is an 89 Range Rover SC, but what's particularly nice about it is under the front, where there should be a V8, there is, but in period, it was tuned and enlarged to 4.5. So you have got a period tuned 4.5 litre V8 in here. It's a 59,000 mile car, Caspian blue, which I think is one of the best colours. It's a sunroof model as well, matching Pirelli Scorpion tyres. It's just ticking so many boxes. Look at this, look at this. So it's locked, which is not helping the job. There you go. Interior is also very, very nice. It's the right colourway, it's the right model. Obviously, if you're an environmentalist, maybe this one is not for you. But the panels are great, the paintwork's really great. Winchester grey is that colour inside. The headlining as well. On these, you always have to check that. Have a look up, Fraser. The headlining nearly always sags in these, and I think, oh, look at that, perfect headliner as well. Much to love, much to love. Diff's good, gearbox is good. We've driven this, it drives really, really well. Obviously, some money has been spent. Now, the top of the Range Rover market is stupid at the moment. It really is, but I think the fact, because it's got the tuned engine, it's making it very sensible. Somewhere between £13,000 and £15,000, you could own that. I will be insanely jealous if you do. It's got an MOT to May 2025, and the last MOT had not a single advisory on it, which tells you everything you need to know. Isn't that brilliant? Just utterly wonderful. Just turn up anywhere. Tiny, tiny, I'm just being super pedantic for you, for those bidding from afar. Tiny, tiny paint mismatch on the back. Again, it's had some paint. It's an 80s car, of course it's had some paint. The paint is done to a very high standard. Tiny little bit of lacquer lift on the edge of the rubber there. That's it. So, but for what the estimate is and what the reserve is, bearing in mind it is a 4.5. Utter bargain. Get bidding on that. And let me have a little ride in it if you buy it. Other cars I would deeply love to own. If any of you have been kind enough to watch my television career from the early days, I did a show many years ago called Turbo Pickers. And on that show, we bought a very knackered XJR-S, a 3.6 manual XJS, and I kind of mashed them together to make a 3.6 manual XJR-S lookalike. And it was this colour with the Speedline bottle tops on, with the full TWR kit. But this, ladies and gentlemen, this is the real deal. This is the 6 litre TWR tuned and spec'd XJR-S. Now, why is that exciting? Jaguar, you may have noticed, have been in the news a lot at the moment because they've relaunched. They've relaunched a car with an insanely long bonnet, very low roofline, and they're kind of getting their mojo back. I think it's quite cool what they've done. I think it's very clever the way they've got us all talking about them for the last 2 weeks as well. But what that's doing is shining a light on Jaguar coupes. The other thing that's happening at the moment, and all these things affect market prices, don't forget, is that TWR themselves have come back, and Kaiser, a very, very talented designer, has joined forces with the Walkinshaw family and Magnus Walker, and they are bringing back the XJS. And they have done this amazing thing, V12, wide arch, cool looking thing, but to be fair, a thick end of £250,000. Very good value for what it is, but you could buy this, the OG, the proper TWR XJR-S with that kit, with those speed lines, estimated at 7.5 to 8.5 grand. Just let that sink in. They made 115 6 litres, that's all. Super rare car. It's got as well, so good, nearly in period, the person that ordered this car, because obviously this was an expensive car and it was new, ordered a £2,800 hi-fi upgrade. It's got all sorts of stacker speakers, amps, you name it, and loads of money spent. What has it had? So it's got the Bilstein upgrades. It was first registered in 1990. Highlights include a bill for nearly £3,000 in 2019, where the rear suspension was removed, powder-coated fresh shocks, new brake calipers, discs, pads. 2020, the gearbox, oil and filter were changed, new headliner was put in, the battery was replaced in 2021. It's got a lot. It's not perfect, don't get me wrong, but it is very tidy, very presentable, and I have seen these for sale in the 30s, these XJR-Ss. Remember, it's a 6 litre, not a 5.3. It's the proper thing. And look inside. Look inside. It is the ultimate GT, this car. You get your Jaguar Sport wheels, look. You get your Jaguar Sport sills. You get your Jaguar Sport steering wheel. There are a myriad of specialists to look after this for you, but even better, you can take your car. I've got an XJ Sport I bought it from here. And I've got that with Jaguar Classic. You could take this back to Jaguar in Brighton and they will service that and love it for you. So yeah, under 10 grand you could buy that car for. What a thing. Like I say, just little tiny bits to do, but a lovely level car that I think you'll have a lot of fun with. And it fires on 12. We fired it up this morning on 12 straight away, which they don't always do. Mine doesn't. I've got a pre-HE XJR-S. That doesn't always fire on 12. That one does. I think this is a potential bargain of the sale. I really do. My friend Darren Langeveld, hey Darren, he has just bought a 355. Here's his left-hand drive F1 gearbox in an amazing colour, in the grey metallic. But if you're a purist, if you're a pure investment buyer, the one you probably should buy is Rosso, right-hand drive, gated manual. Guess which one this is? Ta-da! And it's got the Nero interior. This is pretty much the perfect spec. It's the dream spec. You could go for a crema interior. I would say with a convertible, with a Spider, you want the dark interior. They just wear better. If you park it in with the roof down. Isn't this gorgeous? Just drink it in. Probably the best one on the market. The only thing I can't tell you, because I've not tried it, is the roof. And the only thing is, if I'm being super pedantic, because the bodywork is perfect, I'm going to go really anal on the roof and just say, you get these fold marks where the roof folds, you get a tiny little burnish there, and this has that. But what a thing. Really nice, great mileage. It's done 49,000 miles, but as Fraser looks through the window there, that's what you're buying. You're buying the gated manual, and I promise you, in years to come, when people cash out of these as investments, it will be the manuals that make all the money. The other thing is, the F1 gearbox, my friend Darren, who has a beautiful one of these, he's saying just to get the bits for the F1 gearbox is so expensive, whereas the gated manual is a much easier ownership proposition. You'll probably spend a little bit more money to buy one, but I think it will hold every penny that you ever put into this car. I really do. People have suddenly awoken to the 355. The 348 was a good car. The 355 was even better. If you come right to the back, Fraser, I had the joy of driving back from the Nürburgring in my little Subaru BRZ behind my mate's 355. And just look at that. It is rear of the year. It is just the most stunning looking car from the back. Really lovely thing. So it's got all the right things with it. It's been in his care with our vendor since 2014. The engine bay is Concours. It's got fantastic history, and it's a UK right-hand drive car. Now I think 65 to 75 we've estimated. I think that's really fair. I know what I've seen these advertised for. They're not a cheap car anymore. And this is a particularly nice example with a very nice mileage and a very good history in the right colour with the right gearbox. So if you do want one, speak to Darren Langeveld, Ring Weekends on social media. He will tell you what the ownership experience is like. And I don't think he's ever going to go back. He was a Porsche guy. He's bought his first Ferrari and he's converted. And we did a whole ring trip, laps the Nürburgring with his. They're not as fragile as you think, particularly as a manual. Lovely, lovely thing. Moving across to this. This is back in again, so our lovely vendors had a bit more fun with the car. He's lowered the reserve on this. And we should talk about the condition of this. We have nice cars, presentable cars, pretty cars, cars that look nice. This car's Concours, basically. And I use that word sparingly because very few cars are Concours show quality cars. We have lots of very beautifully prepared cars. This is a show car. You could show this car and possibly win. We've put in our description, arguably the best in the world. I would second that. It's one of those cars where wherever you go, wherever you look, whether it's paintwork, bright work, wheel detail, brake detail, seat stitching, tonneau stitching, clocks, just pick anything on the car, try and pick it apart in terms of the quality. It's impossible. The car is faultless. I would say with maybe a couple of days' work, you are into 100-point concours car here, if that is your thing. Me, personally, I would just buy it, polish it, enjoy it, just have some fun, but everywhere you look, it is flawless. And the reason that is because it was an Arizona car to begin with, which of course is a very, very dry state. So the shell was in good condition. And then our lovely vendor has subjected this car to a nut and bolt restoration. And everything has been done, if you look at even the correct transfers on the wheels, everything has been done to an anally retentive level, which I love. It's just beyond. So everything's powder coated underneath, everything's B4 painted, even the jack, everything, just like silly details. So even the jack has been stripped down to bare metal, repainted in the correct factory paint, just to make sure that's perfect. No, just no detail has been overlooked. White, red interior, just beautiful. Now, because of that, I would imagine this is probably a significant six-figure restoration. You could buy this car for somewhere between 60 and 70. The market is it's a great place to buy at the moment. Everything's just a little bit softer, a little bit less money this time of year. It's December. You know, the market's in a great place if you're a buyer. So you probably won't be able to buy something quite this nice with quite this money spent on it for that amount for quite some time. So if you are really wanting one, beautiful Giulietta Spider, 60 to 70, we've estimated that at. That's lot number 36, if you want to have a look. Now, we've done rather well recently, particularly with our friends in Ireland, with Datsuns of a certain era. This is a 77 Datsun 120Y. I can remember, sorry, 120A, my apologies. 120A Coupe, and I can remember seeing these in the 70s and thinking what a funny looking little car they were at the time. But haven't they aged really well? This is a great example. This has only done 26,500 miles, this one. It's a manual. We think, according to the DVLA, there are only 14 left, and we do believe that mileage is correct. And certainly everywhere you look around the car, it would suggest that the mileage is correct. You never see them for sale in any condition, and this is in great condition. Unmodified, 2 former keepers. So we've got no paperwork with the car, but I think that's just been lost. I don't think that's for any sinister reason other than cars of this age that have been with people for a long, long time. Paperwork does get lost. I'm sorting all my car paperwork out at the moment. Stuff gets lost. Believe it or not, I found a book of files in the back of the spray booth the other day. Just stuff gets moved around when you've got a few cars in your collection. Isn't it lovely though? We would say it's probably the best example out there. The roofline is clean, the boot's nice. I mean, just have a look inside the boot, look. Like I say, you never see these anyway. Even the gas struts have got pressure in. Isn't it great? Just needs nothing. I'm really surprised actually. This has been quite a late entry into the auction. And every other Datsun we've had in hasn't even made the auction because our friends in Ireland who are ahead of the game, they know what they're doing. They have bought them out at top money. Because don't forget with an auction, our duty of care, if you like, is to the vendor. All we want to do in any auction is make sure our vendors get the most amount of money possible for their car. So if you see a car in the auction, not now because it's a little bit late in the day, but we put the cars on the website weeks and weeks before we actually have the auction date. If you see a car on the website that you really want to buy and you don't want the risk of it going to auction and potentially losing it, you can always ring up, make a stupendous offer towards the top estimate of the car's value, and we will always put that to our vendor, and then it's down to our vendor to decide if they'd like to take it. And in every case so far, because the offers have been generous and sensible, they've never made the auction. This one is in the auction, and you can fight it out amongst yourselves now. So 1965 Ford Cortina 1500 Super. Again, isn't this fabulous? So obviously the Cortina that we'd probably all like to buy is a Lotus Cortina. That would be an enormous amount of money and possess a lot of aluminium panels. This is obviously a steel 1500, so you're getting a bit of kind of Lotus look, aren't you? Particularly with a lovely two-tone in red, but for a fraction of the cost. So it's a four-door shell, it's only a 1500, but isn't it just a really attractive, pretty car? And I love the condition of it because it's that kind of really presentable, but not perfect. So you've got the odd little mark and bleb, but from even 2 yards away, it looks gorgeous. The interior is just fantastic, isn't it? Look at that. Look at that. I would say, you know, team, that's probably an original interior, or if not, it's a very, very well done older restoration. It's been restored previously, so there you go, that's answering my own question there. It's got a boot full of parts, including a car cover, a front grille, a front bumper, gaskets, manuals, spare lights, and other assorted small items. Lovely little history and handbook file in there as well. It's been in the Owners Club, it's known to the Owners Club. It's got those CND backlights. Just usable and tidy, loads of history. It's got a current MOT, which of course it doesn't even have to have, all the way through to February 2025. Just a lovely little thing. A Ford Cortina 1500 Super, very pretty car. And it's saying here it's automatic. Is that an automatic? Oh, I think it is. It is an automatic. There you go. That makes it unusual. Now, automatic's interesting. I was having this conversation actually in an interview the other day. Because the next generation of drivers, so if you look at the DVLA data over the last 5 years, the percentage of people getting automatic-only licenses is increasing, and it's increasing dramatically. That's because the current crop of kids, a lot of them aren't bothering to get a manual license because the automatic's so much easier to do. And they know that probably, for the vast majority of people, the car that they're going to buy, whether that's a hybrid or an electric car, is an automatic. So what's the point of getting a manual license? Interestingly, I think that's going to open up a market for automatic classic cars that are really cool, like this one, because you're suddenly going to get this new owner sector that doesn't have a manual license, wants to drive an interesting and old car. So if you've got an interesting old classic automatic, I think that market's going to open up. And at the moment, it's cheaper. So you'd pay less for an auto car than you would for a manual. That's 7 to 8 for a really nice rust-free level car. And it wafts. What's not to love? What's not to love? 1964 Riley 472. Just love these Farina big coupes. It's really sad. If you watch, I was watching it was a cool video, but it's quite sad. It was banger racing in the 70s. And as you can imagine, because these are such a barge and so well made, an absolute ton of these Farinas getting piled around a banger track. I think it was in Essex. And it was very upsetting to watch them get smashed up. But it does make you realise how well made they are. These used to be the absolute favourite of banger races back in the day because they are just a tough old tank. This one's done 26,000 miles and thankfully has never been within a mile of a banger racing track. Look at it. Really nice, credible, believable mileage. There's a lot of history that supports this car. Lovely condition. I would suggest a lot of this car is original. I would wager it's probably had older paint and it's been done very well. But do have a look inside, Fraser. I would say they're the original seats though. It's been in long-term storage. It's a manual gearbox car. The vendor thinks the 26,000 miles is correct. I would say it's certainly shouting that at me. It was first purchased in 1964. This is the original colour scheme. And the vendor says it's had a lot of money spent. It's had a rebuild of the SU carbs, new brake shoes, new rear brakes, new dynamo. And it's just loved. And you can just see it's obviously had a little life as a show car. It's always nice to see the show boards in there as well. And what would the price of opulence and rarity be? Something like this? 10 to 12 grand. And I like it immensely. I would have thought as well, actually, because this was once such a staple of upper middle class Britain, we do talk about cars that you can create an income from. Stuff like this, stuff like the Cortina actually as well, because they were once everywhere. There are loads of filming companies making period dramas for Netflix, BBC, ITV, all the time. Register your car with those. You can get £250 to £500 a day renting them your car for a period drama, particularly if it becomes a main character car. You can pay for it very, very quickly. I've done it in the past and self-finance cars basically for nothing. That I would have thought would be on every filming company's register as a great top middle England car. It's got the blanket on the Porsche shelf, even got the box of tissues, look. Proper old gentleman spec. Now this car is a bit of an opportunity for you to buy. This car's come from a very good friend of mine. In our village where I live, we have a wonderful place called Cayman International. Cayman is super top end, check them out. Supercar showroom basically. They've got all sorts in there, Aston Martin Vulcans, Valkyries, Pagani Huayras, lots of 2-3 million quid stuff, but they are no stranger to a really nice price range supercar, price range classic. This is one of their cars that they've very kindly agreed to consign to the auction as a favour to us, to give us mere mortals who can't afford a Pagani Huayra, chance to buy a Cayman's prepared car, 1983 Lotus Esprit Series 3. Just, I love this, because S1 prices, as we know, they're a bit silly now. And S3s, you're still getting the Giulietta line, you're getting a few little mods and upgrades, but they're much, much cheaper, and in some ways you could argue they're much more drivable. So an S3 is a bit of a sweet spot for me. All the Giulietta lines, still get the slightly mad interior. This one's in a really tasteful black and cream look. Can't normally put Lotus interior and the word tasteful in the same sentence, but I would say that's really nice. Super history and a really nicely prepared car. Now this has been up at Cayman's for a lot of money. Between me and you, this is your chance to probably nick it for a bit less than it was on their stock list for. We've estimated this at 25 to 27. You've obviously got your commissions and things on top. Calypso red, black and magnolia, black carpets, absolutely stunning. We've got loads of owner history, lots of service history as well. It's just a proper thing. It's had, from the original factory colour, this Calypso red, which is a Lotus colour, it was changed many, many years ago and obviously done at great expense and done very properly. It was a full strip down. Original instruction manual, 10 stamps in the service book, and a ton of invoices and receipts. Loads of MOTs, loads of tax discs. Now this is now tax exempt. So what's hilarious about this, if you buy this car, you can drive it into London, ULEZ exempt, so everything exempt really, MOT exempt, tax exempt, all the exempts, and you could buy it for under 30 grand, a Giulietta car. And the nice thing about an S3, you're not trying to be James Bond, are you? It's not like having an S1. And S1s can be 60, 70k. We've done really well. The weird thing about Esprits is the really early ones are worth fortunes. You may have seen we sold a very, very late V8 Turbo recently. That went for about 70k. These are just in the middle as almost utter bargains. As I say, change from 30k, you could buy that. And I recommend highly that you do. This also exceptionally pleasant. So Jaguar XJR-S. We're talking about Jaguars. Jaguars are going to be very popular in the classic car world because what Jaguar have done with this, I think, very clever piece of PR they've done with their new launch is get everybody talking about Jaguar again. And all the people that are offended and upset with the new launch, the new car, it's made everybody realise how much we love Jaguar. That's why people have got so offended. It's why people are typing out all these things on the internet, because we realise we love this brand very much, and they've actually made some incredible cars. Now, whether you want to buy a £100,000 EV, that's up for debate, but what you should buy instead is a very pretty, incredibly well-maintained, beautiful condition 1986 XJR-S 5.3 Coupe. The paintwork on this has had paint, but my word, I would like the painter's number because it's really good, like really, really good. I don't know how close you can get to that and just see the quality of the pearl that's in that and also the flawlessness of the lacquer. It is beautiful, really beautiful. Probably one of the best painted cars in the sales room, I would say. 67,000 miles, automatic, 5.3, it's just ticking every single box. Just, can you imagine wafting down to a country hotel there? Really nice, kind of old money colour combination, 2 owners from new. Very impressive address for the first owner, it says, apparently, which we will let you have. Can't obviously divulge that over the phone. So it's got book pack, it's got invoices. The purists amongst you will doubtless be offended that they haven't detailed the inner part of the alloy, but I actually quite like it as plain silver. I think it looks really good. It's not correct, but it looks good. Really hard to convey how nice the condition of this car is. Have a look at the underneath photographs. Have a look at the paintwork. Please come and satisfy yourself. It's really nice. On the scale of 1 to 10, where that Alfa is a 10, this is probably a heavy 9, maybe even a 9.5. But the difference is you could buy this for somewhere between £9,000 and £11,000. I do think that really nice, beautifully maintained, sensible mileage Jaguars with really nice bodywork and a good engine can only go one way. Because all of a sudden everyone's realised Jaguar stopped making the petrol cars now. You cannot buy a petrol Jaguar anymore. Certain stuff's never going to be worth a huge amount of money. As much as I love them, the new S-types, the new X-types probably won't ever be truly collectible. But XJR's, XJR-S's, got an XJR-S SC coming up for you. I think get a good one, hold on to it, look after it. I think you'll hold your money in it, I really do. And also, in the meantime, what a thing to drive. If you've not driven a really well-maintained XJR-S, they are a joy, an absolute joy. Pull some of the contemporary road tests. You find them all on YouTube. Find when these cars were in the height of their powers and get the Top Gear road test for the time, the Autocar road test for the time. They're just magnificent. I love mine. And if I was going on a long journey to anywhere, I'd take the XJR-S. It's just that good. Now, if you want to be absolute hooligan, drive around the track very, very fast, or just add something very rare and unusual to your collection, may I recommend this? Everybody knows my love for very fast Japanese turbocharged cars. This is a moment in Mitsubishi's history where they were, I don't know what they were smoking or drinking, but it's a real shame that car manufacturers don't do that kind of thing anymore. Everyone knows the Mitsubishi Evo, legendary high-performance Japanese saloon. Mitsubishi UK decided to make a stupidly quick range called the FQ, which stands for flipping quick, but the word flipping is replaced by something much ruder. They were monumentally fast. They have very, very short service intervals because the engines are running on quite tight tolerances. The top of the tree, the one that everybody wanted but nobody could really afford, was this, the 440 MR. So basically 440 horsepower, fire-breathing rally machine. This is it. What's interesting about this spec as well, not only is it the most expensive Mitsubishi Evo you could buy from Mitsubishi UK, this one has only done 7,200 miles. It only made 40 of these, 440 horsepower, 412 pound-feet of torque, full dealer service history, obviously not massive amount of slaps because it's not been anywhere. The car's pretty much as new. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. Interestingly on this, it's a DCT, dual clutch transmission. So a flappy paddle. So it's a proper little race car for the road really, 6-speed. So what can I tell you? 2014, Anthony Betts Mitsubishi in Hemel Hempstead. He had to enter a raffle to be given the opportunity to order, can you imagine? Then put down a hefty deposit But to get one of 40 cars, now in 7,000 miles, it's had 6 services. There you go. And that all-important letter, because you could get other specs of these in Japan, similar, but only Mitsubishi UK did the genuine 440, the FQ440MR. This is that, has the letter from Mitsubishi. If you're into your Mitsubishis, if you're into your rare Japanese stuff, you already know what this is. You already know how unusual it is to buy one in any condition. This one with 7,000 miles is, as you would imagine, practically as new. Please come and have a look. I can't really fault the car, it's gorgeous. What will you pay for that? I can tell you, my friends, 45 to 50,000 pounds, which is like going back in time and ordering a new one. There you go. One of my childhood wants, a Ford Escort RS 2000. I think I may have told the story before. When I was a little kid and I lived in Bottisford in the Midlands, our next door neighbour every year used to have a new RS Ford. So imagine being a little kid, I was like 3, 4, 5, 6. Every year you'd have a new Capri, then an RS 200, then another RS 200, in all the cool, bright Ford colours. So I grew up looking at these as I was riding my rally budgie around the close, thinking one day, and for some reason, I don't know why, probably because they're huge amounts of money, I've never owned a Mark II RS. And when you look at them, you think, what are you doing, Paul? This one's got all the bits, so it's got the extra lights, which look superb. It's a tasteful resto mod, so the seats are non-standard. If you look, it's got some really nice aftermarket seats. It kind of works, it hangs together. It's got a mounting wheel, a few non-standard bits, so the purists look away. Those that like their Ford with a little bit of extra tinsel, very much your bag this. 60,000 miles, very high specification. It's had a recent magazine article in Retro Ford and a full rebuild with lots of money spent. It's been in a private collection. It's got as well a rebuilt engine with a reborn new pistons, big valve cylinder head, fast road cam. So it is not in any way standard. It's had a ton of money spent on it. And as you can imagine, we've got lots of bills and bits and pieces. And it goes back to what I always say. I would rather have a tastefully modified car, a classic, than a standard car. So these RS wheels, the way they've been detailed, they look cooler than the standard wheel. It's obviously got the aftermarket lights with the clear outers, which I really like. If you're a purist, probably not the car for you. But because it's not a pure car, and it's got all these extra bits on, which I think make it better, it will certainly make it faster, and they'll certainly make it more fun to drive, 22 to 24,000 pounds. For basically a magazine-ready, with the magazine feature, show car. I think that's fantastic. Love it, absolutely love it. Love those lights. It's those little tasteful mods. And again, the seats are just more comfortable. They're more supportive. If you're flinging it around sideways, and I would imagine with that engine, this will go very sideways, have something to hold you in. It's got the chin spoiler, it's got the lights. That just does it for me, it really does. You're 22 to 24, plus your commissions, and don't forget when you buy any of the cars, or bikes, 12.5% plus VAT, so basically add 15%. If you're trying to work out in your head, what's this going to cost me? Add 15% to whatever your top bid is. That's what you're going to pay. Moving on, cars we should all at least drive in our lifetime and maybe add to our collections if we can. The Porsche Cayman S. Now what Porsche did with this car, when they launched the Cayman S, which if you look, contains actual bits of 911. So the bonnet of a Cayman and the doors of a Cayman, they're just 911. But then what they did is they took their compromise engine position from the rear and put it in the middle. So actually made the car better balanced. And for that reason, in many ways, a Cayman is probably a better coupe than the 911 is. What they had to do was actually hamstring the car to make it so it wouldn't be too good. They never put massive engines in the Cayman until relatively recently, and they never put sexy diffs in for that reason. Because otherwise a Cayman, if you get these tuned and do a few light mods to them, they will run rings around a 911. They really will. But they're much less money, no less fun. You get sort of a boot in the front, a tiny little kind of toothbrush space in the back. Why this is good, it's Tiptronic, which makes it cheaper and no less fun. And going back to what we're saying about, there is increasingly a market for automatic and paddle shift cars because of the increasing amount of people that have got automatic only licenses. So whereas the hardened collector or investor will say, don't touch anything that's not manual, actually, to live with and to maybe even make money on going forward, I think the Tiptronic cars, the paddle shift cars, the cars that are technically and legally and automatic could be very good news. This is an S, it's got the bigger engine, it's got the higher output, it's in a lovely colour as well. Loads of money spent on it again, this one. Originally registered in the Isle of Man, 2006, full book pack, and then all the work's been carried out recently. There's about £4 grand's worth of bills spent on it. Just a really nice little car. Really not much to do. Wheels are good. Tyres look quite decent. The paintwork's very, very nice. Paintwork's very nice, actually, because black, you see everything. Our lights here as well, if you want to come and view a car, view them under these lights. They are very harsh. If you want to see swirls, holograms on a black car, put it in this room. And this is pretty decent. I'm sure our detailing friends at Skunk could make it even better. But what a nice thing. Not a lot of money, that. 11 to 12 or 13 grand, you could probably take that home. You could waft along. Because don't forget, you can drive this as a pure auto if you want to, or you can effectively shift on the buttons. I like that a lot. But can I be honest, the one I would have with my money is this. For about the same money, I think 10, 11, 12 grand, you could buy this. And here's my friend George to tell me more about it. So for this lot 76, again, I'm referring to my learned colleague, George Turner, who has got a Porsche 944. George, this isn't just a 944. Before we steam into the amazing spec, and particularly the colourway, which I'm in love with, we have the auction record for a 944, the incredible Porsche restored 944 S2 that our friend Kurt at Fast and Funded bought. That went for £50,000. That's the top, beautiful car, yeah. The best in the world. Yeah. That's the top of this market. You could buy this one, I think, for a lot less, somewhere between 10 and 12. But this is still a very special car, isn't it?
Well, it is. And what I'm about to say is I actually genuinely believe there are people out there that are thinking about what classic car or modern classic car you should buy. And I often say to people, choose whatever model it is, whether it be a Porsche, BMW, or Mercedes. But for me, Porsche, if you want to buy a Porsche, either 924, which we've got one in the sale, is an S model.
Yeah.
So it's top of the range, everything you want on it. Obviously, this is a 944 Ventura, which again is top of the range. So what you're buying is ones that are fairly rare.
Yeah.
There's not lots of them made. And particularly this car, for, as you say, 10 to 12,000 pounds, is exceptionally good value for money because it is a beautiful car that's been much well loved. I've had a good look round it, and there's lots of things that I know about these cars that people can botch up, particularly the sills.
Well, shall I tell you why it's so nice? Because in the last 5 years, over £8,600 has been spent on it, and you could buy the car for 10 something maybe.
Yeah.
And you're only really covering the cost of the bills in the last 5 years.
And that's why these are very good cars to buy for that kind of money. I mean, the one I have, I've had it for about 8 or 9 years now. It's still done less than 60,000 miles. It's in Zermatt silver. Now, I've had it down all the way, wherever you want to go with. The Porsche clubs, I think it's one of the largest make clubs in the country with the amount of people. They go all over Europe, Ireland, or whatever. These are fantastic cars to use. And what is more, you can get all the spares.
You can.
Right.
Do you know the other reason I love the 944 so much? Because this is what they call a transaxle car, isn't it, George? So
it
basically, your engine and gearbox are at the back, totally perfectly offsetting
Balanced.
the weight of the engine at the front. So actually, in many, many ways, not financially, they are much, much better than a 911. Because you buy one for a fraction of the cost of a 911. If this was a 911 of the same mileage, this car's only done 53,000 miles, and such a rare model in such a lovely colour, this will be £40,000-50,000 easily. Well, you're going to buy this for a fifth of that.
Well, you are, but I mean, I've had a good look around this car, and it's in great condition. A very good friend of mine, Damien Jones, who had one of these for many years, said when I bought mine, he said, you'll love driving it. He says it's one of the best driving cars you'll ever have.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely right. Where you were just talking about the balance between the front weight distribution.
They're actually nicer to drive quickly than a 911. They're less scary.
Well, I'm sure they are. I mean, they're just fantastic. But the thing about this is, you know, I know more about these. I mean, you know, this is complete. You can't get this now. These are very brittle. So
yeah.
This is the detail I look at. And you know, when you look at the top of the struts and everything, look at all the weight, all this. You don't feel as though that this is not lacked from not having any proper service. It's been well looked after.
Oh, it's got mega history. And Fraser, look inside. Look at the interior. For me, if you didn't like it already, it's got the S2 wheels, which are technically the incorrect wheels, but I think they're a wonderful improvement.
Easy to keep clean.
They are lovely. I think they're the nicest looking 944. Look at that interior. Isn't that just a vision in burgundy? It's beautiful, this car. Absolutely beautiful. It really wants nothing other than a new name on the V5, bit of petrol in the tank, bit of wax on for winter. That's it, isn't it, George?
Yeah, the little cover should go over there.
Yeah, that's missing that, yeah. Little cover on the rear wash wipe. Yeah. Very hard to fault this car, and it's a roof car as well.
Yeah, sunshine roof it is, but you can tell that this has been much loved, and don't know how many miles it's done. But
53,000.
Yeah, well, that's the point. So,
and may I tell you, George, if I could just interrupt you for a moment, over £2,000, well, nearly £3,000 spent in January 2024, includes a new cam belt, an engine service, a coolant flush, all the fluids changed, transaxle's been drained out and changed. Basically, our lovely vendor at the beginning of this year has gone through and spent nearly £3 to make this car perfect, ready for sale.
Proper
thing.
The detail on it is amazing, just in every way. And you know, anybody who restores these, they don't mask off around here properly. That little rubber in there will have paint on it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I spent a lot of time before I bought mine and looked at plenty of them. But what I would say, if somebody is interested in buying this in our sale, please come and have a look at it, because it is a truly fantastic car for somewhere between £10,000 to £12,000. You've already explained how much has been spent onto it. That gives me confidence that it's a car that's right for somebody, as you rightly said, put the name in the V5 and go enjoy it.
Yeah.
But not when there's any salt on the road.
That's very true. Don't do that. So yeah, it's the perfect first Porsche, isn't it? If you're looking to get into the Porsche brand, this is your perfect jumping on point. And I would say, even if you can afford a more expensive car than this, why bother? This is everything you ever need for a maximum of probably £12,000. Bid with confidence, my friends. It's gorgeous. There you go, ladies and gentlemen, the wisdom of George Turner. What he doesn't know about the Porsche 944 or singers isn't worth knowing. On to this. This is a car I know a little bit about. This belongs to a very good friend of mine. This belongs to Tony Pitts, actor, thespian, director, lovey, all-round good guy, and certified petrol head. He wanted one of these. This is a 2009 Audi R8 Quattro V10. Of course it's the gated manual, of course it is. Of course it's got all the carbon extras on it, including the carbon blades. And of course it's in ridiculous condition. It's only 37,000 miles. He looked at loads before he bought this. And then he bought the best one he could find, and then he really spanked the vendor that he bought it off to spend thousands and thousands of pounds sorting little niggles out. He's very much the guy you want to buy a car from. It's just exceptional. Like I say, he looked at loads, he then got it sorted. Hard to fault. Also, interestingly, using his recent TV pilot as well, so it's got some on-screen credentials. Everything about it, from the condition of the wheels to the paintwork to the interior, is all perfect. Brand new set of Michelin's on there as well. It's just mega, just ready to go, needs nothing. Everyone knows that this is the distance relation of the Lamborghini that you can buy for a much more sensible figure. They're also very usable. I mean, people did and do drive these daily, the R8s. They're just a very nice, usable car. And what's nice about them, although they are ferociously fast and quick, they're actually quite benign and easy to drive. And for that reason, if you do want a first supercar, that's a great place to start. Very impressive service history, 10 stamp, 7 of which are Audi main dealers, 3 being specialists. And again, have a look inside. You are buying a car from the world's most finicky man, and that can only be a good thing. Service history is backed up with loads of invoices and receipts, loads of MOTs, and of course the spare key. Now because of that, because it's also the German national racing colour, it's not going to be cheap. 55 to 60k, which is probably, you know, the thick end of retail money, but it is a retail quality car, and it was not very long ago in a retail situation. So Tony is a guy that likes to swap his cars about as often as I swap my pants, about every 6 months. So this has not been with him very long, but he'll probably sell this on Saturday and buy something else from the sale. It's that kind of guy. But if you want one, do come and have a look. Do bring your expert, do bring your mechanic friend, do bring your Audi specialist and pick it apart, because it does bear close scrutiny. It really is as nice as it looks, that one. 55 to 60, come and take that home, add that to your collection. What a thing, what a thing. Cars I like very much, because I've got one. This is, why do people keep locking the doors on these cars? A Bentley Arnage Mulliner T, which is a stupendous car, and at the time was one of the fastest accelerating and most powerful saloons available. It's 2007, it's very late, so it's the facelift one, this one. 95,000 miles, beautiful looking, really nice colourway as well. It's been an Isle of Man registration, so I do believe that's going to come off. But I like these late Mulliner cars. I've got the earlier one with the split rims. The later cars have the bigger wheel, they have the wing vent, they also have the nicer facelift headlights as well, which I think look a little bit more modern. It's Portland hide, and that's meteor grey inside, absolutely beautiful. You also get as well, in the Mulliner, as well as the diamond stitch seats, if you look, you get the diamond turn dash. Because the thing about the Arnage, because you can have different engines, you can have the proper Bentley engine, and don't forget this is the last proper crew Bentley, the Arnage. But the spec really has a huge effect on price. So the nice thing about the Mulliner is you get the much nicer seats, and you do get the diamond turn dash. The machine polished circles, they look so good. And it really stands them apart from, dare I say, they're still very nice cars, but the BMW engine cars, which are much easier to get into financially, and they're no less lovely. But I think the ones that will hold their money and the ones that will always be special are these run-out Mulliners. They're not just nicer inside, but they've got the proper engine. What can I tell you about the history? Originally from Bentley Leicester, bought by a gentleman in the Isle of Man. There you go. Service history is very impressive with a full book pack, a spare key, lots of dealer information. So do take some time. Bentleys aren't scary. All you need to do is find a good specialist and get one with a great history. Don't be put off by the mileage. Mine's done 100,000 miles. Drives absolutely beautifully. They do smart a bit. If you get a bill and a service, you know, they're not going to be like a Ford Fiesta to run. So as long as you accept that, you give yourself a little bit of money tucked away for a rainy day, you will have an enormous amount of fun. What will you pay for the car? Somewhere between 24 and 26,000. I just think they look absolutely beautiful. What's interesting at the moment, isn't it? Because we've got this new Jaguar out this week, that aesthetic, that kind of big, almost Rolls-Royce Spectre aesthetic, where you've got big grille, big lights, big sort of square wings, is suddenly becoming very popular again. And if you look, this car's never not had it. Arnage, I think, is one of the really, truly timeless Bentleys. Very pretty. And the rear quarter is very nice. If you look at the back, come look around here. I do love the rear three quarters of this car. I think they're particularly special. I'm going to be super fastidious for you now. This car's had some paint on the boot, and I would, if it was mine, just a little bit of very light hologram swirling, a good detailer, and 200 quid would make that car perfect, absolutely perfect. And the car is so nice, it's worth spending the money. It really is. And that's it, just all I can really fault it on. That number plate sadly doesn't stay with it. That's an Isle of Man registration. It will go back onto a period correct British registration. So you're not getting that sadly, but what you are getting is an awful lot of car. If you buy your cars by the foot, that's going to be very good value. Come here, come here. This is one of my all-time favourite 4x4s. Either the 4.5 Range Rover Vogue SE earlier, that because you can drive it anywhere and people will think you're actually quite posh. Everyone will think you're a bit of a hooligan if you turn up in this, but I'm quite all right with that. These are just absolutely bonkers. If you're not familiar with this model, this is the Mitsubishi Pajero Evolution. Just stupid, absolutely stupid thing. 1997 they made these, basically stuck an Evo engine in the Pajero and put massive wide wings on. So anyone who's been kind enough to follow me all the way through these videos will know there's certain things that I love, one of which is wide body kits, wide arches. Anything that suddenly gets wider than the factory standard is very much a big tick for me. And all of what you see here, all of this crazy body kit, wide stance, amazing wheels, was all fitted by the factory. Then they put this silly bonnet on. They're just stupidly quick. Again, pull some YouTube videos. If you're wanting to buy one of these, have a look at what is possible to be done with them. It's like a little road legal Dakar car, basically. It's just like a Mitsubishi Evo inside. They're utterly nonsensical, which to me is the very best kind of car to buy. They make absolutely no sense at all. In some ways, they're utterly useless because, you know, if you want a 4x4, you get a diesel. If you want an Evo, you get an Evo. But aesthetically, I just think they look so good. Long MOT on this one. It is very rare to find any for sale that aren't absolutely battered, and there are quite a few horrible ones out there. So it's a 3.5 litre, 24 valve, V6 engine, 275 horsepower. It's just silly. Got some history in Japan, got some history in the UK. It's registered for a tracker, but we're not sure if that's on there. It's clean, it's tidy, it's nice on the body. It is very, very pretty. I would be tempted to put a cheeky bid on that myself had I not just splashed out on something large as American. Estimate on that, 22 to 24. I do think they have the capacity to be astonishingly expensive in the not very distant future. What I've noticed about 4x4 prices generally is they're starting to get quite outrageous. And these are so unusual to find in any condition, and this is particularly nice. I think that could quite seriously be a 40 grand car before very long. Just because of the whole rally art history, because of the whole Dakar crossover, because of the fact that everybody likes fast Japanese stuff. When they become eligible for shipping out to the US in the not very distant future, I would have thought that would be very good news as well. In fact, they might be there now, actually. In fact, that one is. You could ship that to the US. Could be worth a lot of money. Have a bid. I would say 22 to 24,000 pounds. And that's everything in Hall 1. Join me now in the next hall. After I've swagged my tea. Now, it wouldn't be Christmas without having a bike under the tree, and I'm here with George, my great mate, and also no stranger to a magnificent chopper himself. George, tell me about these beautiful choppers that we've got here. This is a Mark 1. I'm a Nottingham lad. I always go on about rally bikes. I was lucky enough to go to the factory. I've just seen a picture today of George in the factory. George, rally bikes, the chopper, changed the game.
Well, they did. I mean, it's quite interesting. If you take time back just over 55 years ago, around about 1968, Raleigh decided that they needed to sort of bring out a new style bicycle. And in fact, they sent a couple of executives over to America to look at Swins and the like to see what they were doing over there.
Beach cruisers.
Exactly right. And they decided to come back, and this is what they created in 1968, 1969, the original Mark I Raleigh Chopper, small front wheel, larger back wheel. The interesting thing about it is the Mark Is, they had this extended seat and the safety bar at the back. And of course, people wanted to do wheelies and all the other kind of things that they could. And this is a lovely machine in the bright red. It's got the correct tyres, the chrome mudguards and everything is a pretty good condition with the original controller. But this is a later Mark I version of it, the Mark I, the early Mark I, which is one
Would we
down.
call this a 1.5, this one, do you think?
We're Mark 1.5.
Yeah,
yes,
in modern nomenclature.
So this would probably be made around about 71, 72. In fact, it's probably got a date in the hub. In fact,
Well, it has, so it's 1973.
Yes, I found it, but I couldn't remember whether it's 72 or 73.
So this bike, believe it or not, is the same age as me. One would argue it's wearing considerably better, and it's probably more fun to ride.
I can't answer that question.
Isn't that cool? So as a kid born in 1973, when this bike was made, you know, if you had the kid on our estate, if you're the kid on our estate who had one of these, a wheelie machine, what we call in Nottingham, and we'll explain this word to the world, a crogger. A crogger in Nottingham is when you put your mate on the back, and of course the chopper was the bike for it. And also the badge of honour, if you had a chopper in Nottingham, if you had a few bends in your forks, it mean that you'd either landed a few sweet jumps and you'd have to straighten them out, or you'd done a lot of significant wheelies. So that's very nice. That's going to be worth a huge amount of money. They were 32 quid when they were new, when I was born, all those years ago. That's probably, what, 1,500, 2 grand now, that bike?
We'd like to hope.
Oh, yeah.
For the vendor particularly, I hope so. It's in almost good condition. That there's not much you'd need to do. I just want to see.
Very original, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I'm just looking. Yeah, they've had the replacement cables. The original ones have got a rib in them.
I remember.
Yeah, and these, but they're in replacement.
For extra pleasure.
But it's a very nice machine, and they've had lots of publicity recently, obviously with Paddy McGuinness doing his cycle challenge for children in need.
But he would have used a later chopper, or did he use an original one? What mark did...
I think it's one of the last ones.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Well, this is a Mark III.
It
So
is.
they're not made in Nottingham at this point.
No.
Which is sacrilegious and terrible. But it's still a brilliant bike. You should still buy it. But also because of that, they are a little bit easier to buy these, a bit more cost effective, aren't they, on the old pocket?
Yeah,
the Mark IIIs.
well, they are. But the interesting thing about it, this was actually made in Vietnam, and they're actually lighter.
Are they?
Yeah, because there's more.
Well, that's to be fair, because an early chopper weighs about as much as the Sun, doesn't it?
Well, they've kept a lot of the things. You've got the dimple forks, which is typically Raleigh. Obviously, the brakes are slightly different, and the cranks and everything different. They've still got a 3-speed hub, and yeah, I mean, you can still have a lot of fun with that. And you know, there's thousands of them out there. The interesting thing is that you'll see these for sale on eBay, and with the box,
Yeah.
they're worth £1,000.
I know, that's crazy, but this one's no reserve. There's a little bit to do, isn't there? There's a tiny bit of rust and corrosion on the luggage carrier.
Yeah.
You could definitely add value to this, or just leave it like it is. If you're into the Volkswagen scene, or you want a classic paddock bike for your historic race car, I think rounding around on an old rally chopper, that's got to be the way to do it.
Yeah.
No reserve, you set the price on that one, ladies and gentlemen. Back to another super desirable, Paddy McGuinness coloured Mark I. Now this looks like it's completely original. It's even got the original cables and they've all frayed. So you are going to have to do a little bit of work to get this back to its best, aren't you, this one?
Yes, you are. And this, of course, as I say, because it's the earlier version of it, you can see the handlebars here are not welded up. You've got the pinch bolt, so you can actually adjust these to whichever size they are. And if you actually look as well, the way these handlebars, this part here, it's more flat. If you look at the early, by then they've tipped them down.
Yeah, this is more Peter Fonda, this one, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's probably more a kind of way to ride. It probably feels better on the wrist. But it's very nice. I mean, it needs a little bit of work if you want to do it. 1 or 2 of the transfers are missing. But the interesting thing about a lot of these, what Raleigh did very well, was, you know, the little nuts on here, they've got the letter R in, which was just one of the things they did.
Detailing, yeah.
Well, it was just a bit more. It was just a bit better. So, nice machine, ride it, clean it, put the correct
And
tyre
again,
on
you
the back.
probably are into 4 figures to buy that, even with the work to do, just because it's rare, it's very early, that one.
It is.
And it's yellow, and you never saw many yellow ones in the 70s.
You
Tell
certainly
you that.
did. Yeah.
If you turned up in our estate and that, in the 70s, you'd have been king.
You'd
king
been
of the
showing
estate.
up. You'd been showing off.
You would. And
Yeah.
if you could do a wheelie as well, double so.
Yeah.
Now we're right in the middle now. So we've done 1, we've done 3, we've done early 1. It's a 2.
It is. Yeah. So again, You can see there, by the time they got to here, they changed the shift here to the T. It was all to do with health and safety, although those words weren't mentioned in
It's
those.
wokeness before wokeness was a thing.
It was, indeed. And obviously the size of the seat changed, the way the suspension at the back changed, and obviously you could, in theory, only put one person, but people still put two on.
Oh, we've got loads of them on there.
Yeah, absolutely it is. But this is in nice condition. The chrome works in good condition.
I think a 2 is a nice compromise. Although it doesn't have the attractive super long seat of the Mark 1, you still look like a real 70s bike. This, I think, is the best colour. This is ultraviolet, this, isn't it, with the day glow stickers on it.
Yeah, definitely.
But there are a lot less. You could probably buy this for about almost half of what a mint Mark 1 would be. So I think Mark 2 represents bike. You could probably buy that for £500 to £1,000.
Yeah, something like that. It's still got the original rally levers on, which is very nice to see as well. It's a good value for money bike. I would love to clean that because I think I could make it.
You could buy it.
Well,
that could be your winter project.
I have enough winter projects, but nice machine. Anyway,
so whatever your chopper aspiration, whatever your chopper budget, or if you want to go a little bit smaller, this is a very, very clever thing. This is a Moulton Mini. So George, as our resident bicycle expert, talk to us about the magic of Moulton and the place that they hold in the commuter bike world.
Right, a history lesson.
Yeah, let's have one.
1962.
Before my time.
Really? Alex Moulton designed these machines. Revolutionary in the time. Nobody had really changed the designs of bicycles from either the diamond frame or the loop frame for probably 80 and 90 years, other than probably one or two that challenged me with that. But this is a mini Moulton, but there is what they call a maxi Moulton. And mini in that era was all mini skirts, mini cars and mini bikes.
So what period is this then? So this is a 60s bike?
Well, it's 60s, but this colour, it's probably a bit later than that. It's single speed. Now, they did it in all different kinds of, with suspension in the front, which this doesn't have.
It's got suspension on the back, hasn't it? It's a rubber block.
Which is the same design that came from the Mini.
Yeah,
Squashing
hydroelastic.
Swashing it. So this is a rare Mini Moulton. You can adjust it up and down. Now, I haven't checked, but I just can't see. Anyway.
So George, I know you're a very strong man, but you're making that look very lightweight.
Yeah, most of them were made in Bradford-upon-Avon, but there was a time when BMC had a factory in Kirkby and Liverpool, and they also made Moulton bicycles for them because the demand for them was huge. And in fact, I have a picture on my phone of a minivan with it says Moulton on it, with Moultons on the top of it. So if you want to put it in, it's in my phone now.
Well, there you go. So that's great. No reserve bike, this one. And what's lovely about this, I think that would be a fabulous accessory for your period camper, your period car. If you've got a late 60s, early 70s car or camper van, and you want the perfect thing to go with it, I reckon that's it. Yeah. What can you tell us from that badge, George?
Well, I was looking to see, because later on in life, they were made by Raleigh.
Ah,
right.
But
this isn't. But looking at it honestly, it's somewhere from the 70s, particularly the colour. It's only got 14-inch wheels. It's a child's side. Obviously, you can adjust it up. And it's in nice condition. If you had some of the later Moultons, I've been looking to see what they are, particularly with complete suspensions, they're into the thousands of pounds now.
Well, there you go. And that was no reserve.
So if you happen to see, anybody happens to see in an antique shop or somewhere where there's a house clearance sale, and you see a Moulton with suspension front and back, buy it.
Get it bought. There you go. So, George, you mentioned Raleigh there, and that brings us on to our final lot.
So we have to go over
very,
here.
very special. So join us. Now, this next lot is very, very special. Not only is it beautiful in its own right, it's a Mark II chopper, of which our resident guru will tell us more in a moment, but it's been donated by a very lovely person to Destination Florida. Now, Destination Florida, charity very dear to our hearts, and our chairman, Stephen, and they look after all sorts of kids. Kids who had not a great start to life, have had a little bit of bad luck or have medical conditions. It takes them to Florida with full medical cover and help and make sure they have the most wonderful holiday of their lives. It's a fantastic charity, and every penny you bid on this will go to that charity, every penny. We're not putting any fees on, nothing. Whatever goes in, goes straight to them. So bid with your heart. But not only that, George, it's a bloody lovely example. And who donated this, George?
I did.
George did. What a lovely man.
The reason why I put this in is that obviously Paddy McGuinness was doing this charity ride for children in need and raised an enormous amount of money riding Raleigh Chopper. And I felt that this has been in my collection for some number of years, and I thought it would be quite nice to see how much we could get for the charity. It's a Mark II, and it's been customised. It came from a very good friend of mine who has another Raleigh Chopper as well, So it was customised in a way. He has a VW Mark 1 camper van, and it's in this colour, and it's with the cream. So it's got the white wall tyres, and it's in great condition. It's got the right T shift on there. And if you want to get rid of the paint on there, you can soon strip that off and get it back to chrome. It rides very well, the gears work very well, and it's just a lovely machine that hopefully will get an enormous amount of money for this charity that's very dear to all of us that work here at Manor Park.
So like I said, don't forget, a good Mark II is worth anywhere between £500 and £1,000 anyway, if you're just bidding on a good one. This is in beautiful condition. Even as I can see, at least one of its original cables there as well, because they are ribbed cables that George was talking about earlier. Yeah. But don't forget, it's all going to charity, every penny, all of our fees, everything. We're tipping everything in. It's a bid big, and it is gorgeous. Like George says, have it with your air-cooled Volkswagen, or just have it for your collection, or just have it to ride around on. Or you can use it like Paddy McGuinness, go on a big run and make loads of money yourself. It's Christmas time, he's got white hair, he's jolly, and he brings presents to children everywhere. It's George. George, tell me about these wonderful retro new pedal cars.
Well, first of all, I've never played Father Christmas, but there's always some time.
You're getting there though, mate, you're getting there.
No, but it's good the other way. Yeah, as you know, Christmas time, it's quite nice to have an auction where we have some things that maybe people want. And items like this, these two pedal cars we've got here, modern made, but great style, a lot of effort into it. And I think that's probably been repainted at some stage because it's probably a fire tender truck or something like that. I have a couple of at home which I have by side of my desk. One's of a Mercedes and the other one is of an Audi. So anybody for a shop, barber shop, display places, or just to have it around. I have one upstairs of a pedal car of a Lada that was made in Russia. And they're just nice to have around. Not huge value, but always a good talking point. And by the way, if you have any grandchildren, sit a minute and let them see what it's like to have a little vehicle of their own that you can have some fun with.
And as I said, these two come as a lot together. So if you're bidding on lot 6, you're bidding on both of these at the same time. There is no reserve, so you get to set the price for the first one. And as George says, they won't be enormous amounts of money, but they'll look like you've spent enormous amounts of money. So when you gift these under the tree at Christmas, people will think you're the most wonderful grandparent in the world. And also, if you're like me, if you've got 2 daughters that you've been trying to brainwash their entire lives into cars, pedal cars are a great way to do it. That's how I got them into it as kids. Pedal cars, they love their pedal cars, and they're slowly getting into the car world now.
The best picture I have of myself when I'm about 3 years old, my father built a pedal car looking like a Bugatti.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great picture. And it just shows you that there's a lot of people that have got a lot of skill. Somebody I know, Brian Swan, he used to build replicas of Morgans to a very high standard, almost replicas in every way. So there's lots of very clever people. And
well,
I think
George, talking of which, look at this next lot.
Come on then, let's go and have a look.
Now, as you said, mate, there are some incredible replicas, big cars made small. Now, I was lucky enough to do the London to Brighton run a few weeks ago, and on that run was a real 1903 Didion Bouton. This is a perfect baby replica. I'd imagine, I don't know, probably about 2/5 size of the real thing. And just talk us through the work that's gone into this. This is a Briggs & Stratton petrol engine, so it flies along, makes all the right noises. It's got all this imitation brass. It's got a horn that really works. It's just lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I just briefly mentioned about the skill of people out there that are craftsmen, and to see what somebody's done with the detail that they've gone to. You've already mentioned the brass, but even the way they put the shapes in the wings, like the original Didion Boutons and Renaults of the period as well. And the shape of the radiator is very French of that time, like the Didion is. But just look at the wheels, the way they've created those as well. They're using some chopper, I think they've got chopper-sized wheel tyres on by the look of it.
Yeah, they look like old Grifter and chopper tyres, don't they?
I think they are, absolutely. But it's great, handbrake here. I mean, it's
really authentic, isn't it?
It's fantastic. I mean, the steering, I think, is very direct. The trouble is, it's up to the way you want to do. Normally, when you turn the steering wheel, it goes this way, so the wheels come right, but it's exact opposite of this. So you'll be very confused, right? So when you're turning left, right, the wheels are coming right.
I think that steering box, like a Dodgem's gone all the way around. I think that's fixable.
Well,
a couple of points to note here. One, this will not be an inexpensive item because of the rarity and what it is. Obviously, if you're into the veteran car scene and you'd like a little one, this is the perfect thing to buy. Our vendor states, do not buy this for your child if you think your child can sit in it and taz off on their own. It's really quick. Really, really quick. This is very much needs some kind of parental supervision. This is not for little Billy to taz around the yard. He will probably hurt himself quite significantly. This is properly quick, probably about as quick as a real one, actually. So
before it comes to a hill.
yeah, exactly that.
But I mean, it's interesting, according here, there's a pennant that was presented, I'm presuming, to this car, but it talks about the London to Brighton in '06. So, you know, you can imagine them in Hyde Park,
Yeah.
right? And, you know, I've seen people who've built replicas of Morris Minors and all kinds of things. We talked about TVRs. You know, this, you put that, somebody behind.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
and if you're a smaller person wanting to look larger than you are, Drew Pritchard talking to you, this is great. Make you look absolutely huge, wouldn't it? You can look like you're doing the veteran car run and you're absolutely massive. So that's going to be, realistically, somewhere between £4,000 and £5,000. You'll know if you're bidding on that, they never really come up for sale at all. And it's just a wonderful thing. If you're buying a real de Dion Bouton from 1983, it's house money. So that represents something of a bargain. George, you're moving towards our next lot 5, the GP motorised miniature, another very, very fast. If you've been to Toys R Us, and you remember those 12-volt electric cars that you can let kids drive, these are for children and big children. They're very quick. Both of these guys, they are really properly quick. Petrol engine. I mean, look at the engine on this. It's huge, look. It's a big engine with a big competition air filter and a massive tank.
Sequential box.
Sequential box. So yeah, if you've got a kid that can drive, you want this for them. But like I say, don't put small children in this unattended. If you look as well at the legroom on this, this will fit an adult. This is very much a curio or a bit of fun for your car collection that you can put full-size kids in.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of place that you need to have a house or an estate where you can go and have some fun, because obviously you can't take it on the road.
Well, you could, but you'd get arrested.
Well, indeed, you'd need a bit more on it than what it's got. But, you know, there are people that would enjoy this, and, you know, you could go to lots of events with it and have some fun with it. But beautifully made, it's obviously professionally made, because I think this is GRP.
Yeah, it's a lot of money in this.
Yeah, and they're quite interesting. They've gone to a lot of detail, like the original Army Jeeps with the period from the 1940s, even with a spare jerry can on the back, which is...
I could get in this, I could drive this. So I mean, I'm 6'4" and I'm all legs. It's what I mean, it is for kids, kind of, but it's for big kids as well, isn't it?
Which put a smile on your face. So.
I would love this.
Hey?
Wouldn't this be great? Like, say, if you had a bit of land, you could taz around.
Yeah.
Or again, if you were doing anything at any kind of military event, if you wanted this as the ultimate paddock wagon, put a little trailer on the back, go and fetch the tyres and the bacon butties.
But you see people that have traction engines,
Yeah.
and then they'll make one at 10th scale, and they'll be pulling a little trolley behind with a couple of children in. There are some unbelievably clever engineers in this country that can make almost exact replicas to whatever size you think they should be, 8th scale, 10th scale,
It's
or
amazing.
full scale.
And it says here, George, on my notes, the perfect Christmas present for your children. What children are getting a £3,000 Jeep for Christmas? And if you are that parent, can you please adopt me?
Well, please come and bid for us. Here's the sale as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Worth every penny. So that's a bit of fun. Moving on to some non-reserve stuff that's a little bit less expensive now. This, I think, could have many, many uses. Someone's obviously, by hand, lovingly made this Volkswagen split screen here. It's no reserve. I think this could have a lot of uses, George. It obviously would go in a nursery or playroom and be a fabulous thing. If you're an air-cooled Volkswagen fiend like me, great thing to have in your collection. I could see this being a fabulous sideboard in a kid's bedroom.
Yeah.
Paint the bottom half to match whatever the decor is.
Yeah.
And if you come around here, Fraser, and have a look, it's got little side opening doors as well. Ultimate cat bed, you can have it as. My cats would love it in there. They think...
I could see people that have got a young child that's probably only a couple of years of age, put a bed in there and they'd love to sleep in it.
What a good idea.
Yeah, but equally as well, you know, you might decide that you've got, again, and I often think about this, it might have another use, a display purpose in a florist shop or whatever it is. Not huge value, made out of wood, but it does roll away.
It's a bit of fun. That's what it is. It's a bit of fun. And in a similar vein is this little trotter replica here, this trotter reliant van. Now this is another wonderful thing. Please bid on this. As George says, just like the Volkswagen, fantastic bit of display, wonderful curio in any room, great in your kids' room. Every penny of this is going to Destination Florida charity once again. So whoever's been kind enough to donate this, all of that's going to a wonderful cause. So bid and have some fun and raise money for a good cause. And I think this could do a few things. Again, you could put a few planters or something like that.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, often you come up with ideas because you've usually seen it somewhere else, and you usually think to yourself, oh, there's an alternative for that. And we've seen some of the vehicles that we even sold, particularly Ford vans and things like that. They've gone to people who use them for display purposes. Yeah. And there will be somebody out there who will see this. They won't be a huge amount of money, but they're very, very they have a nice soul about them
They do.
somehow.
They do.
You know, it's the way that they've been constructed, the colours that they've chosen. And yes, we all know what the trotter van looked like from Only Fools and Horses. It's the colour that you remember most and what's written on the side of it as well. And somebody's gone, you know, spent a bit of time with it and they've created something that's very well made. And as you say, they're in our sale, and I think they'll make some wonderful Christmas presents or have another life somewhere, which is what it's all about.
Exactly. If I see that in your florist shop or in your pub or bar, I think that'll look absolutely superb. And like I say, every penny goes to Destination Florida. Now, this next thing, I think we'll have a lot of people fighting over this. I'm going to have a cheeky bid on this. Mini front end display piece. It's really clever because it looks totally authentic, and I would imagine it's been splashed off a genuine front end. But what you're seeing there is a perfect fiberglass replica dressed with metal parts and bits and pieces to make it look real. So the nice thing is you don't need to have huge structural improvements to your wall. Don't get me wrong, you're not going to stick it onto your IKEA hooks. You are going to have to put some decent fixings in your wall. It's got a significant weight to it, but it's got the Austin Cooper badge, the grille, the lights, the bumper. Really nice display piece. Again, this could do so many things. I would put it in my lounge. I don't think Mrs. Cowland would approve. Wouldn't it look good in your garage? Wouldn't it look good behind your bar? Wouldn't it look amazing in your office or boardroom? George, you could do so many things with this, couldn't you?
Yes, I mean, as you know, we have a couple of similar things on our display here in Manor Park here in Cheshire, and this is another one that, you know, is equally brilliantly done and conceived, even to sort of the little reflectors on here and, you know, the safety glass on the top here to stop them shattering. The detail of it is, and it's not be a huge amount of money, but I personally would have that outside. And
would you?
And I'd have a sensor on it,
Yeah.
and then when it
That would
comes
be a
on,
security light.
the lights come on, and I think it would be such a surprise when you think it comes. What's that? But that's just a quirky thing, which would be quite nice to do. Something a bit different.
I love that. So that's going to be quite expensive because if you've ever seen the cost of those, if you went to the NEC Practical Classic show, there's a few of those for sale. They're big ticket. That's probably going to be at least £1,000, probably somewhere between £1,000 and £2,000. But what a thing. It would cost you a lot more than that to put it together. And finally, this is a bit of fun. If you want to spend all of Christmas in A&E or in traction, how about a unicycle? I'm not going to try and ride this for you now. I'm quite good at doing wheelies, but I've never tried a unicycle. Can you unicycle, George?
Definitely not.
No.
No.
If you want to break something, and please understand that if you try and do a demo here in the sales room, if you hurt yourself, you're on your own. What's that no reserve, that, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I mean, again, it's an art thing. You know, you'd find. I mean, a friend of mine has a cycle museum, Paul, and it's probably something he'd buy, and he'd just have it on display there.
Stick it on the wall.
Absolutely, it is. It's quite heavy, actually. It's very strong spokes, the amount of the size of the wheel and everything, but it's aluminium. Don't know where it was made, but it's obviously professionally made, and yeah, it's no reserve. But
So if you're one of those really annoying people that juggles, maybe you could buy this and extend your repertoire and start doing a bit of busking in the new year. Join the circus.
that would be a bit extreme. There we go. So that's it. Those are all our items early on in the sale on Saturday.
When did you last see one of these? Isn't this a pretty little thing? I do like a Fiesta. Mark 1 Fiesta to me is the prettiest of all the Fiestas. Do like a Mark 2 as well. But Mark 1 is it. And the Bravo is a very unusual special edition. And it's nice, this one. It's had some paint. Interesting to note, it's very, very pretty, very straight and incredibly presentable. I would say bonnet's been painted. There's a tiny half shade difference. And there's a little bit of polish burn on the edge because it's obviously been loved and cherished. But other than that, what a thing. RS 4-spokes could not look better on this car. Look at the interior as well, look. So this car has done 47,000 miles. It's a manual. As good as it looks on the telly, it is that good in real life. Tiny bit, because I think it's probably original paint. If you've got a tiny little bit of lacquer discoloration, you might be able to flat and polish that and make it look an awful lot better. Because I wouldn't be in a massive rush to paint parts of this car that you don't have to. Because to me, what makes this car really exceptional is the originality. 2 sets of wheels. If you want to put it back on the standard wheels, you can. I would be sorely tempted to leave it exactly as it is. It looks absolutely fantastic. And it's just a nice thing. Not over-restored, and a proper little survivor. That bonnet's definitely been painted, but I'm prepared to bet a lot of this other paint is probably either original or a very, very old restoration. Loads of MOTs, loads of tax discs, lots of things that suggest that 47,000 miles is genuine, and a load of paperwork and stuff to go through. If you haven't seen on our channel, please do look into the listing of each car. If you can't be here in person, we have a full documents room for you to go through. You can look at all the invoices, all the books, pull the MOTs, the tax discs, everything we have we will share with you, of course. If you can't do that because you're bidding from afar, we do it online. So we have a little video that goes through and shows you what we've got, And Nick literally goes through every single one and tells you what we have. If you want some more detail or you want copies of anything or a walkthrough or a talk through, give the guys a call. If you're watching this on Wednesday, you've got 3 days. 3 days to check it all out before you buy. We want you to have all the information before you bid, wherever you are, so you can bid with confidence. Don't do what I do, which is to rush up at the last minute, have a quick 2-minute look round. Give yourself days to reassure yourself. Now here is a rarity. You might be thinking, Astra GTe, but it isn't. It's an Astra L 1.3S with a beautiful GTe kit on, some very nice compomotive wheels, and I can't even think of the last time I saw a 1.3S. We think it's potentially the last one left, the last one registered left on the road. That's how rare these lovely little square Astras are. It's a bit of an eyeful, isn't it? So it says GTE. I will stress again, please, ladies and gentlemen, it is not a GTE. Please don't bid on this thinking it's a GTE. It is a 1.3S, which is actually much rarer, with a lot of GTE bits on it and in it, including the full interior and a crazy aftermarket wheel. What this is a car that I think you'll have a lot of fun with and you can add value to. Being super straight with you, as I'd like to try to be, the paintwork, the paintwork you could do a little bit with. If you look here, we've just got a little bit of peel. A lot of this you could wet flat, you really could. So there's a lot of paint on it. Some of it I think you just probably want to refinish. Here you could definitely wet flat. If you've got a good detailer or paint shop near you, you could make this car look twice as good for hundreds, not thousands of pounds, just by going through, wet flatting, tweaking. Again, it looks like this has been done with vinyl on these door blacks. Just do that, just small things you can do for hundreds of pounds. But in the meantime, what you've got is a very rare, very solid little car. So it looks like a GTE. It's got, no way. Wait a minute, look inside, look inside. It's got a working digi-dash. Stop the show, just buy it for that reason alone. Forget about the paint, it's not important. Doesn't matter, doesn't matter. It's got a working digi-dash. That's all you need to know. End of conversation. What will you pay for that? £5,000 to £6,000. Little bit to do, but what's nice about that, you can add value, you can make it look even nicer than it does. But just come back here, look. Stand here. And just look at that. Those compo motors look fantastic. It was off the road for 17 years from 2007 when the mileage was 40,000. It came back on the road in February this year with a mileage of 121,000, which we think is when the digi-dash went in. So you have got a mileage discrepancy. It probably is a lower mileage car. It's like reverse clocking. That's what this is. So basically someone has reverse clocked it to make the dash work and probably didn't want to mess the dash about by resetting it. So you are buying, in the nicest possible way, a Bitzer, and I love cars like this. It's got all of the fun stuff fitted to it, and all you've got to do is knock the edges off and make it a super, super car. But turn up at any Vauxhall show or Max Power reunion and be greeted like a conquering hero. Absolutely adore that. So bits to do, but still a nice thing. Talking of which, very similar proposition here. This car's back in again with a lower reserve. You know me, I love a left-hand drive car. I love the fact they generally come from better countries with less salt than the UK. I love the fact that they're generally cheaper to buy when they're over here. But if you can be patient when you sell, and if we've got some interested overseas bidders, you might find this car makes more money because, of course, in France, Germany, all of mainland Europe, this left-hand drive is far more desirable. This is a 1983 RS 1600i, not to be confused with the XR3i, which looks similar, doesn't have that deep chin spoiler, doesn't have this gorgeous biplane rear wing, doesn't have the RS7 spokes, and isn't a homologation car. XR3i is a very cool retro hot hatch. RS 1600i is a proper homologation Group A racing car machine, and for that reason normally commands the thick end of 30k. This one could be yours with a few bits to do. A little bit on the A-pillar look, a little bit of paint on the scuttle. I would go to your trimmer and get your driver's seat retensioned because the interior is actually quite nice on this. But you could buy this for 9 to 11, so you're talking a third of what a minty mint RS 1600i costs. And it's not going to cost 20 grand to put it right, it really isn't. I think you could put a couple of grand into this and have a really nice car out of it. Or just drive it as it is in the meantime. So if you're looking for a rolling resto and a really cheap way into top-end RS, because don't forget, the two sets of magic letters on a Ford are XR and RS RS always commands an enormous premium over anything else that it's based on. And RSs are all expensive, we know this. That one isn't, but it is actually a really nice car under all that. Factory standard, nice details, got the overriders on, it's got a perfectly mint parcel shelf, which believe me, in this era, isn't normal. Everybody put 6x9s in, they didn't on that one. And also it's a non-sunroof, which is the purest choice. So if you're looking to build a period correct race car, this is the car to build it into. It really is. It would be a shame to take it off the road, but if you're looking for a great shell, you want to build like a Group A replica, do it into that. Love it. So bits to do, but what a lovely, honest, genuine car. And you know what? I would much rather buy a car like this, much rather buy a car which looks very much to be in factory paint with a few little scabs showing, because you can see everything. Anything that's got paint on it, you're always wondering what's under the paint. When it's like that and it's all honest and above board, you know exactly what you've got. I think that's good value, I really do. This is back in, a little bit cheaper. I was admiring one of these with my friend Simon Gregson at the British Motor Museum a few weeks ago, and we were saying, aren't they a pretty car? Anything of this era, this is a 1937 Rover 14 horsepower P2 Saloon, by the way. Anything of this era, I really want to hot rod it. Just imagine this with widened wings and a roof top, it would look sensational. But if you are looking for a lot of fun, a lot of presence, for not a lot of money, because we're talking about 4.5 to 5.5 grand here, isn't it pretty? 72,000 miles, manual, really nice colour. What could you do with this? Well, you could have a lot of fun just driving it around. You could do weddings, for sure. I think you'd be very popular and very busy. You could rent it to filming vehicles companies. What's interesting, pre-war stuff like this just isn't worth a huge amount of money at the moment. It's a wonderful time to buy it. Because the audience is obviously an older audience, people that wanted this kind of stuff are sadly no longer with us. But they're great cars. 30s cars are really usable cars. And also, as long as you've got an Imperial or Whitworth socket set, you can spanner on them yourself. They're so fixable. It's a Rover. The parts are very, very good. The engine's very accessible. Lift up this gorgeous engine. And the bodywork on this is decent. A few little rust blebs, a little bit to do on the bottom of the doors, look here. Nothing that's going to break the bank or be too difficult to do. But apart from the door bottoms, you know, she's in lovely condition. Lovely condition. There's some paperwork for the car, including a V5C. There's bills for work up to the mid-2000s, old MOTs, the back at the mileage. Bit of tarnishing on the chrome work. But it starts on the button. The guys, every time we go to start this car, every time, boom, on the button. Can you think for 5.5 grand? Anything? Don't restore it, just get those door bottoms sorted, put a bit of Autosol on the radiator, done. That's all you need, all you need. Now this is a bit of me, I have raced a Mark II Volkswagen Golf for 15 years, and to my mind, nothing out there for the money is more benign, easier to drive, more fun. So I've raced the GTi Championship, I raced pre-94 touring cars in a Mark II. They're just brilliant, just predictable. As I say, they go where you point them, if you set them up properly. Now someone spent an awful lot of money on this, but I must point out at this exact point in time, despite the many thousands of pounds in it, it does not run. It needs finishing, but there's huge amounts of expenditure. So let me open the door. You've got a full, very good cage. So that's probably a thick end of 1,500 quid. If you look, it's got X bars on the doors as well. And why that's useful is if somebody smacks you in the side, that's going to save you from getting squished because there's not an awful lot of integrity in a Volkswagen door. So a huge number of parts, lots of early paperwork, will be an amazing track car. I would have thought actually, check the championship you want to go into. This has got plastic side windows, plastic back windows. So if you're building it for sprint or hill climb, you don't really have to worry about regulations. If you are going into a saloon championship, you probably want to check, because some of them do demand that you put glass back in or you put metal bonnets back on. It's got a glass fibre bonnet. Let me tell you about the engine, because it's got a 1.8 turbo with a 240 horsepower spec bigger turbo. So there's the opportunity here to make a very, very quick track car, So it's got a 240 brake horsepower engine. There will be wiring to do, there will be cabling to do. There's going to be some kind of dash shenanigans to have. So don't buy this thinking you're going to jump in it and go and set the lap record at Mallory Park. There's hours left to spend, but the shell looks very, very good, I have to say. It's got the big bumper, GTi kit on it. These are not inexpensive items, just that kit, just the arches and sills. The rubbing strips are worth a lot of money, the engine's worth a lot of money, the shell's worth a lot of money. And it's all there, you can see the other bits and pieces. So if you're not sure, please come and have a look. If you want one of the team to walk you around and just explain what's there, my advice would be, having built a few of these, come and have a look. I would say you've probably got 95% of the stuff you need, and you could half the cost of doing this. But just a good shell, painted with a cage in, that's 5-6 grand before you start. So just buy it as a shell, get a free engine and a load of free stuff. I don't know what suspension it's on. Suddenly I can't tell you. It's on standard-ish brakes, big standard-ish brakes. Could be a lot of fun that. As someone, as I say, that's campaigned a Golf for a long, long time, I take mine to the Nürburgring some years and spank expensive things with it, and it's a lot of fun. If you want some inspiration for what to do with this, look at my friend Nigel Pinder. He used to have a very famous Golf called the Pinder Wagon, which he put a silly 1.8 engine in and loads of aero, and he spanked everything at the Nürburgring. Check it out, Pinder Wagon on YouTube. It's quick, it's very quick. Do you like a barn find? I like a barn find. This is in remarkable condition for a barn find. This is a 1960 Jaguar Mark II 2.4 litre. And I would say she's in lovely order. Now, first of all, it's not going to be a lot of money. Let's start there. It's £5,000 to £6,000 and you can buy this. 2 owners showing as well. And it's a great colour combination. The door is shut or locked. Let's have a look. See if we can get into that. There you go. Come and have a look inside here, Fraser. The Mark II Jag needs no introduction as to why you want to own one or why they're so lovely. These were, in the 80s, the classic car that everybody wanted to restore. Not least of all because Inspector Morse made them very popular. But they're actually really usable. And also, if you're old enough to remember, these had a bit of a bad boy image in the 60s. They were the gangster and bank robbers car of choice because they're very spacious, very comfortable, handled very well, and were actually quite quick for what they were. So if you were going to blag a bookies or a bank, do it in a Mark II. And that bad boy image made them extremely popular. This, for me, condition-wise, patination, Drew Pritchard would be having a fit. It's gorgeous. So do you restore? Or do you leave it as it is? I'd be very tempted to leave it as it is and recommission. Condition-wise, lots of parts to finish it off, lots of new parts fitted, lots of body parts and chrome work inside. You could make that into a very nice car. I would be hugely tempted not to touch it and just get it running right. And this gentleman's other car is an E-Type, which you'll come to in a minute. Some valuations from Drivers Club. Again, there is work to do. That lovely 3x3 registration stays with it as well. You're not going to spend a huge amount, as I say, £5,000 to £6,000. It's a manual car. It is a 2.4. She looks good, you know. I'm just looking at the bodywork and all the places where this should be dropping to bits from a rust point of view. And come and look down the side, Fraser. It's really straight. Now, I don't know which arches it comes with. Oh, there you go. Arches are in the back. It's got the larger rear spats. It's got the chrome and bright work in the back. I would say that's not an enormous amount of work to make a good, passable runner. Obviously, if you want to strip it down and resto it, if that's your thing, but why bother? Just have some fun. Don't do that, guys. If you've got a half-decent level car, just put it back together, get an MOT on it, get it insured, just use it, and then you'll have so much enthusiasm and love for the car. And also the fact where this is presentable but not perfect, you'll use it all the time, and if you get the odd little scratch mark on it, you won't care. And that's the way into classic car ownership. Don't make them too nice. Take it from someone that's done it far too often. I've over-restored cars, and then I never drive them. Just get them up to a good, reliable level and use them, enjoy them. Now, this is very interesting. We've had a lot of people talk about this. 1970, 4.2, 2+2. Very pleasing project. Again, really nice little 3x3 number on that there as well. Manual car. Why is this car interesting? Because it's right-hand drive, it's a stored restoration. It appears to be, I mean, again, please come and satisfy yourself because everyone knows E-Types can be an absolute marvel at hiding rust. But this one actually looks to be very, very good. Lots of previous owner details. It's quite solid in the body from what we can see. And there's loads of bits, including 2 wood rims, some nice interior parts. Needs a blessed good sort out. This is obviously really probably nobody's cup of tea, this roof. You probably want to do something about that, either put a new roof panel on or convert the whole thing into a big Tudor Webasto. So the HPI suggests it was registered in 1975 and was built in 1970. So it's possibly been overseas for the first 5 years of its life, I would say, this car. So some history, big gaps because it's been in storage for a long time. But look at the seams. You can see with the bumpers off. That's quite useful to see. If you look at the seams, that's where they can hold a lot of rust. Now, E-Types are getting cheaper. That's the good news for anyone that's thinking of one. So, I mean, this is normally there. I would not expect to see that in quite such nice condition. So the bits that you can see like that suggest that all this stuff is probably quite surface. But like I say, the door needs adjusting. Yeah, that's going to need a little bit of help. Work to do, certainly, but it's not going to be expensive. £10,000 to £12,000. And look at the results of the cars that we've sold of this year, of this type, that are finished, you can see there's money to be made if you can do the work yourself, or just get yourself onto the bottom rung of E-Type ownership for not a lot of money. Great car, really great car. Jaguar, as we know, in the news a lot this week. Moving on to this, for all fans of the Italian job. Hello, gentlemen. 1971 Alfa Romeo Giulia 1600 Super. Again, great time to buy somebody's project here, where someone spent a lot of money doing all the hard work, all the body work, all the paint work, spending, I would imagine, thousands of pounds in the process, meaning all you've got to do is a winter fit up. And we're getting to that time of year for classic cars where, what are we going to do? Because, you know, there's no shows on, it's blinking cold. If you've got a nice garage and you can lock yourself in there with a good podcast, cup of tea or two or a nice beer, socket set, I just basically put this back together. It's an Italian kit car, is what it is. Right-hand drive, very, very rare to get one of these. You can see we've got, we think, everything to put it back together. But again, please, can't stress enough, come and satisfy yourself. If you want to carefully take everything out and go through it, you're more than welcome to see what you're getting. But we're not asking for huge amounts of money for what this is. Bodywork is perfect and ready to go. 20 to 22,000, such a rare car now. So the vendor's owned the Alfa since 2005, and when he bought it, it was blue. He's had loads of classics, and he's done an awful lot of work. So it's stripped to bare metal, painted in this gorgeous magenta, and the finish is good, really nice. The engine's been rebuilt to a really high standard. All the glass, all the interior is there, but you are going to have to put hours in and know what you're doing, or have a friend who knows what they're doing. Engine, gearbox, interiors, all here. Please come and satisfy yourself before you buy. That's the whole point of viewing days. But I think you've got the makings of a great winter project there. You really have. Another Jaguar, well, actually Daimler. Come with me. So you can always tell the difference between a Daimler and a Jag by the fluted grille. The Daimler has a fluted grille. It also has the V8 engine, which many would argue, very small displacement V8 engine. They sound absolutely fantastic. This one is a 1968. It's a stored restoration project. So can you install it? Can you come and finish what our vendor started? I think you probably can, you know. It looks very, very complete. It's an automatic. It's done 50,000. It is, of course, everything exempt. Loads of new parts on it. Really tidy interior in there as well. It's got a modern sat-nav system fitted, which is good news. So it's had work done. It will need work doing. What that is, I can't honestly tell you. So again, please come and satisfy yourself as to what you think this needs. So it's got a newish Pioneer sat-nav fitted in the glove box. It's on the original wheels. There's 5 of those. Chrome's looks like it's original. Many new parts, front brakes, rear brakes, discs, springs and shocks, steering joints, master cylinder. And the engine apparently did run, but please bid on this knowing it needs work. It definitely will need some paint work if you're after a mint car. Or again, like I say, I think there's a real charm, a real roguish charm in running a Mark II, whether that's a Daimler or a Jag, just with this sort of careworn look and just get it running right. Because you could buy this car for, well, you tell me, because it's no reserve. So single figure thousands, spend a couple of other thousand just getting it on the road and running, and just win at life. Doors dropped a little bit, tiny bit. Seats are nice though, look. Seats are very nice, actually. Dash is very nice. So benefit from our vendor's previous expenditure. And remember, it's a Daimler V8. More projects, more things for you to finish. 1962 Jaguar, this one. Come through this way. Excuse me, gentlemen, we're just going to film this. Don't want to get in your way. This is a 62 Mark II 2.4 litre, this one. No reserve. Project car with only 2 previous keepers. We think it's complete, but again, please come and have a look for yourself. There's lots of boxes, lots of trim. So the things that have been taken off appear to be in the car. But do take a moment. It's had a respray. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, with a little bit of polish and a flat, it could be very good. But you can also see there's a lot to do. All of the windows and trim and courses appear to be in here. All of the trim panels, all of the dash, boxes and boxes of bits. And if you look behind, just acres and acres of stuff. Some of this is for the Jag, some of it's for the MG. This is Project Corner. We know that you get bored in the winter. We know that you do, so we're trying to give you some stuff to do. No reserve on that one. Could be an absolutely gorgeous car when it's done. You get to choose the price. And just think for a moment what it costs just to buy a car, get the bodywork sorted, get it to a paint stage. That's thousands of pounds. And then you've got to do the work that's required here. Let someone else take that hardship for you. You get to set the price of what you think it's worth. You will save a fortune, you really will. And the small amount of buggering about that you have to find the odd bit of trim that you don't know where it is probably much cheaper and easier than getting the bodywork to that stage in the first place. I'd have a go at that, I really would. Moving on to this, more projects. This is the good side of this 1959 MGA 1600 twin cam roadster. Very, very rare car these. This is a UK supplied right-hand drive example. Really great project to finish off. And as you can see on the floor here, it's all there. This is a true kit car, isn't it? Now this is not going to be cheap. Anyone that knows twin cams, they're super rare, very quick. They're the desirable one. But for that reason, they are expensive. Finished cars, as you know, are gazillions of pounds. This one will be 20 to 22, but it is there. She's complete. A very carefully stacked pile of parts in there. What would you like to know? Low ownership. It does appear to have all the parts. 4-speed gearbox, although it's got a 5-speed in it currently. So if you want to be a purist and put it back, it's got the hard top, the boot rack, loads of boxes, a vast collection of invoices and receipts going back many years, loads of MOTs. It's only had 6 owners since the 50s. And it's registered on 1959. And I think it's on its original registration number as well, you know, guys. So if you are an MG restoration specialist, or if you'd like to learn to become one, this could be a very good car to learn on. But like I say, with all these restoration projects, we have tried to be as conscientious as we can, but please come and have a look for yourself. If you want to know if the parts are there or not, bid. And also as well, just bid knowing that you're probably going to be missing the odd clip, the odd piece of trim. Give yourself a little bit of budget left to finish them off. This is another one. Are you feeling brave? 1973 Range Rover, 2-door, Suffix B, no reserve, rewarding winter project. And we've got you here, so you're going to get a car and a half here. You get a winter project with a complete car plus a body shell. The 2 previous keepers, family owned for 50 years. It's a Suffix B, as I said. It's been off the road for 40 years in dry storage. And when you buy an old Range Rover, you can guarantee... Hello, sir. It's quite all right. So when you buy an old Range Rover, you can guarantee that you're going to have some rust to deal with. What you don't normally get to see when you buy an old Range Rover is where that rust is. What's nice about this one is you do. If you want to have a look, you can see there's some fairly extensive rust there. But this is why we're chucking in a spare shell. So I think what we're suggesting you do here is prepare this shell nicely and then build the contents of that car in it. Obviously do make sure that you've appropriately notified the DVLA that you've done that, because obviously that's effectively correct ringing, but do make sure the DVLA is aware of the fact you've reshelled the car, and there's a very nice way to do it. Again, no reserve on that one. You set the price, you tell us what you think it's worth. Moving on to the Triumph Stag. The ultimate CAD car with its correct factory hardtop as well. This is a 73. Lots of 1973 cars in this auction, which I love, same age as me. Boxes and boxes and boxes in this car. It's got authentic fine dust, which we all know on eBay adds hundreds of pounds. 94,000 miles. It's a manual, owned by the vendor for in excess of 30 years. It's got the Stag alloys, so it's got the hardtop. The Stag has stood for 30 years and it's only being sold due to the fact the vendor has realised we'll never get around to restoring it, which is very sad. But maybe this is where you step in and finish this story off. Loads of manuals, original driver's handbook, some V5s, some MOTs, lots of stuff. But all these cars, no reserve. So is it £500? Is it £1,000? You don't necessarily need to spend a load of money to get into these projects. Doubtless you'll have to spend a load of money on them when you get them, but just get into them, have some fun, and you'll be saving an old car. That's a really wonderful feeling. Take it from someone that's done it for a living for 30 years. To keep an old car going and to put an old car that's been off the road for a long time back on the road. It's quite emotional actually, when you get a nice one and you get it back on the road. But even if it's like those Jaguars, like I was saying, even if all you do is not restore it, just get it back into a usable, drivable condition, you've done your bit for the classic car community. You've basically taken something unusable and made it usable, even if that's your step of value that you add. It's such a worthwhile thing to do. So think of it that way. Now this is a bit of fun. This could be very exciting, and potentially, if you're the one that can do all the hard work, could be quite profitable as well. You've seen, we've sold a lot of Mini Coopers to the auction. They've always fetched really good money. From what we can see, this is a correctly registered, numbers matching Mini Cooper S Mark III. Exciting restoration opportunity here. So it's got all the bits. There's a listing below. It's been with the same family for 40 years, which is why we think it's all present and correct. They only made 1,570 Mark III Coopers between 70 and 71. they are really unusual to find. This is a good shell. If Fraser can just get round, if you look at, again, on the seams and the edges, it's not by any means hanging. I don't think you'd have to spend a lot of money to get the shell looking good. New panels were purchased, the receipts are there. They were used to repair the original shell, which is now great condition. We think the colour was originally antelope, and it's now been painted in imperial blue. So it's something completely different. It looks to be the correct Mark III shell. We can't guarantee it's the original shell. From what we can tell and from what the family tell us, it's legitimate. Please, again, can't stress this enough, come and have a look for yourself. Come poke prod, and if you've got a mini expert in your gang that wants to come and tell you what it is, then we would very much like to welcome them and entertain them in looking around the car. But there is a lot of fun to be had there. Let me just talk you through some of the stuff. Twin tanks, radius arms, wiper mechanism, rear bin liners, lower dash rail. Have a look on the website. There are almost 2 pages of what the car has with it. There's no engine plate fitted to the block on there as well. And we've got some supporting paperwork. The family tell us it's all there. Please just check for yourself. They tell us it's all the original bit. Now we're now about to go in to the world of 4x4s. Welcome now into our 4x4 section. It's winter. The roads are icy and treacherous. And what you probably need is a nice 4x4 to get you to where you want to be. Perhaps this is a bit too nice to use in the winter though. This is a 1949, another 49, we've got 2 in this sale. Land Rover 80 Series 1, really nice, largely original car. You've got the lights behind the grille, which I just think is the coolest aesthetic for these. It's a ring pull gearbox model and it's a matching numbers car, this one. It's been with the current owner for 39 years. It's got the lights behind the grille, matching engine and chassis numbers, and in the restoration it's had, and I love the fact it's not overly restored, because you can make these too nice and again unusable. I just like them to be a little bit rough on the edges, a little bit used and abused, and this one is definitely that. But it's got £15,000 worth of bills. Seats look very nice in there. It's got its original British Motor Heritage Certificate, registered on June 1949. Yeah, again, some nice things. It's got the uprated radiator, which I think is a good thing to have. But just a lovely level car. Now this one, 25 to 27,000. It's got the tilt and bows on, which is really nice as well, which makes it a lot more usable. If you don't know about the Land Rover scene, it's just a fabulous scene. It's also got a very cool registration number, which I would have thought is worth an awful lot of money, that you must leave on it if you buy it. It's got the original 1600 petrol engine, and as I say, because it's been with the current owner since 1985, where it was built from a Lakeland Land Rover, it was restored in 2022 with parts in excess of 15,000. And like I say, what I love is they've obviously done parts that you can't see. What they haven't done is touch this fantastic bodywork. Some gentlemen getting really into this next lot look, the Land Rover. This is what we like, this is what it's all about. This is what viewing days are for. Obviously we try to do the best we can. We put underbody pictures on the website, but this is what you want to do, what this gentleman's doing, you see. Get on the floor, get your torch out, have a look. Much to be encouraged. You carry on, gentlemen, I'm just going to talk about it while you're looking at it.
We'll discuss my fee.
Stunt fee for being on the floor. Yes, as we were saying, very much encouraged. So that's what today, if you look around the room, that's what all these lovely people are doing. Everyone's coming and having a poke and a prod. Because obviously these are all used cars, they're all classic cars. We've got many, many immaculate cars, but a lot of these cars are slightly imperfect. They'll need bits of restoration. They may need jobs doing. And that's what you can come and check on a viewing day. Come through, sir, come through. This is a 2010 Land Rover Defender 110, really nice 4x4. This has got some nice bits, 90,000 manual, long MOT, ready to be used and abused this. I really like the two-tone. It's got the 2.4 litre diesel engine, it's got a 6-speed manual box. But one thing to remember on this is because of what it's been used for, because it's a commercial spec vehicle, it's subject to VAT. Now, if you're a VAT registered business, it doesn't really matter because you just claim it all back. But if you're a private individual buying this for yourself, you are going to have to pay the VAT on top. So just bear that in mind. So there's your 15% from us, and then your 20% to the Inland Revenue. You'll get all of that back if you're a business and you're VAT registered. If you're a private buyer, you won't. So just bear that in mind when you're bidding. Really nice, very level. Beautiful straight sides as well. Surprisingly straight, actually. And I do love the commercial, which is why it's VAT registered. So you could use that as a commercial. A few little bits to do. I tidy up that scuttle panel with the engine a bit of a detail and clean. But she's not bad at all. Look at the bonnet. She's in good nick. 12 to 14,000 pounds would buy you that. Now, British icons. There's one. Very nice interior on that as well. I like silly things. I did a podcast, a driven podcast of the day. Cars that you shouldn't buy, but you really want to, because they're just so attractive for the money. the £5,000 or £6,000 Bentleys and Rolls Royces and the £5,000 or £6,000 Range Rover. Get a good one and be born under a lucky star. It could be one of the best vehicles you ever own. But obviously when these go, the bills are interesting, to say the least. But this is great, 3.6 TD V8. So it's the turbo diesel, it's the V8. There's a reason that so many landed gentry and country folk, and even Her Majesty the Queen, favour this shape of Range Rover. It is the absolute, I think, pinnacle of design. It's one of the nicest looking ones they ever did. And again, one of those cars that just screams old money. Fresh MOT on this one, owned by our vendor for 12 years, with a great service history. It just presents and drives beautifully. Fraser's going to take you inside on a little tour there. Great colour combination on this one as well. Dealer fitted mud flaps on there. Good looking car. Supplied by Guy Salmon in Sheffield. And our owner has had it for 11 years. Service history, very impressive. 14 stamps in the book, loads of invoices, receipts and MOTs. And they sit really nicely. So don't get me wrong, £5,000 or £6,000 would buy it. Again, really critical with these old ranges. Get yourself a good specialist. Keep looking after it. Be absolutely clinical on those service intervals. And you can get a really good car. And also, to be honest, at this age, they've probably shaken most of the bugs out. So if you've got one with a good MOT history and a good service history like this one, you're probably going to be okay. But go into it with your eyes wide open. And remember what I always say, check the tyres, because that tells you everything about the owner. This one's on Michelin's. So that reassures me immensely. Now, I also like this one. This is a full country set spec, smaller wheels, bigger tyres, 4.4 V8, full fat, this one. So I think if it was my money, I'd go for this and just swallow the petrol bill. So the fuel consumption on this is going to be absolutely hideous. But when you look this good, who cares? £5,000 to £6,000 to buy this. It looks absolutely immense. Green with cream leather and the wood kit. Come and look inside, it's just fabulous. And it's got a full fat V8. What is not to love about that? So it's an L322 as the previous one was, which I think is the best looking Range Rover. Leave in the comments which is your favourite, but for me it's the 322, always is. It looks like it's been looked after, I have to say. It's nice on the bodywork. It's not perfect, but it's very, very good. The seats are pretty decent. A little bit of shine on the driver's seat, as you'd expect. And the mileage on this one is 85,000. It's got book pack. It's got some stamps, but not full stamps in there. It's got matching Wrangler tyres, which is quite decent. Little tiny blemishes inside and outside, but you know what? Just level, honest, presentable car that's obviously been cared for and loved. I would like to own that. Probably being super pedantic, I think that bonnet, you might, if you're looking to make it minty mint, you can feel it. At least kind of polish and flat that, or maybe even a tiny, tiny bit of paint to bring that back. Or again, just run it for what it is. It's the perfect winter hack. And because it's the little wheels as well, screams old money. But Goodyear Wranglers, again, another really expensive tyre. These are obviously people that have been maintaining their Range Rovers with no regard to expense. They're our favourite kind of people. 1971 Land Rover. These gentlemen are following me around. I'm convinced of it. 1971 Land Rover. Series 2A, this one. Now, I know everyone goes mad for the Series 1s. For me, I like the Series 2s more because you get this line here. You get this unbroken suede that runs down the side. And to me, it's a more aesthetically resolved car, that one. 50,000 miles, it's manual, classic colour configuration, it's green, 7 seats, 2.5 litre diesel. There is no such thing as a practical or sensible Series Land Rover, but this is about as practical and sensible as it gets. It really is. So you've got your 3 seats at the front, look. If you've never owned one of these, they are just mega. And to me, Series 2A, you sort of got a bit of the charm and the appeal of the one. I think they're better looking, personally. And of course, they're a bit more usable and drivable. It's had a recent alternator, a master cylinder, a slave cylinder, and it was driven here. You will, I don't think, ever lose money on this. And you will never not find a home for them. People always want to buy old Land Rovers, particularly in this colour. They have so many uses. You can use them for promotional stuff. You can actually use it as a towing vehicle, slow towing vehicle, especially as a diesel. But look, in the back, there you go, you can take ankle biters in the back, or very short people. So that is a true 7-seater. So if you've agreed to get a sensible people carrier, a 7-seater, there it is. What would you pay for that? £6,000 to £7,000. That's all, 6 or 7,000. Now this is back in with a low reserve, and I think this is very pretty. Another Series 1. If you want Series 1s, we've got you covered. See what I mean? Here's what I mean about Series 1. They have a unique charm and appeal. You see how the wing liner on a Series 1 runs into the windscreen scuttle, whereas on a Series 2 it carries through. I just think that's prettier on a Series 2, and they're cheaper, much cheaper. This is lovely, obviously being used as a promotional vehicle. 1956 Land Rover 88 Series 1, on the button this thing starts, ready to go. I like buying ex-promotional vehicles because generally speaking, if you're a brand and you're trying to associate your brand with an old vehicle, you want it to be quite reliable, because there's nothing more embarrassing when you're doing some kind of promo or event and then the thing won't start on you. So this has had some money making it nice. It's also got a very funky interior. We've got two 49s. This is a 56, this one. Got a Smith's heater, so you will stay warm. It's got a 1.8 turbo diesel. It's got a lovely Exmoor hood, which is not a cheap item. And again, a full set of Goodyears on there. 73,000 miles showing. And just lovely. Again, not perfect. None of these Land Rovers are Concours. But that is not the point of owning a Land Rover. The whole point is something that looks presentable. And actually, every little scratch and mark you get on a Land Rover, you wear it with pride because it all adds to the visual appeal of the vehicle. That's very nice. Will not be huge amounts of money. 9 to 11,000, which for a Series 1 is very good value indeed. Moving over here, another one. 1955. This is interesting, isn't it? This is another Series 1. Series 1s are the rarest Land Rovers for sale, but we've got 4 of them. So which colour would you like and what configuration would you like? I can almost give you the engine, hood option, whatever you prefer. 10 to 12,000 will buy you this one, 36,000 miles showing, 2.25 litre petrol engine, runs and drives. It's had some recent paint on it. It's got the bikini top and the rear tonneau on there, so quite usable. Wouldn't be the warmest winter ride, this, would it? Because you've got no way of keeping them the wind and rain off the back there. But if you want something fun and funky to drive in the summer, this is your jam. Definitely look at that. You've got your rear tonneau, which fits beautifully. Very nice bikini roof on there. It's been with our current owner since 2008. And I very much like the way it sits, I have to say. Would have had a 2 litre, it's got the 2.25 in it now. Some nice exposed patinated aluminium on there as well. And it just looks good, doesn't it? It's got some history, some invoices. But like all the others, not pristine, just really sits well, very happy in its own skin. You've got a few little kind of creases and marks there. And they've just painted over all of the patination, which I actually really like. So you've got bumps and lumps in the doors. It's had some paint just to freshen it up. Yes, and all this lovely exposed patinated aluminium just really works. I like that a lot. That one is, my iPad's frozen. That one is 10 to 12. 10 to 12 will buy you that. Another Land Rover. Like I say, if you'd like a Land Rover, Highline 110. Ex-South African example, and appears to be very, very solid. Obviously lived a lot of its life in a dry climate, so the chassis is very nice on this. Big specification. It looks like it's got a Golf chassis as well, which does not hurt. It's been in the UK since 26, got matching set of Yokohamas on it. Like all good Land Rovers, it's got a selection of dents down the doors. But look at that. She's meaty. Now someone has painted, so you're missing your speakers in the doors. I would say good on the outside, bits to do on the inside. It's obviously had some kind of waterproof textured paint to make it more rugged on the inside. So if you're looking for luxury on the inside, you might want to invest in a carpet set. What else can I tell you? Recently believed to be in the region of £3,000 spent on it. Lots of toys on it as well. You've got the big roof rack, you've got the winch. Yeah, so you can see what I mean? So there's been some interesting audio fitments in there. You might want to spend a bit of time tidying up the door panels if you want to make it super nice. Or if you're putting it into a work setting, all the work's been done for you. But it's not going to be a huge amount of money, 9 to 11. Got some very interesting holders. I don't know what that looks like. It's designed to hold some kind of tank. If you know what that's for, please leave it in the comments. Let me know. I don't. Ladders up to the roof rack. That looks like a very expensive roof rack. That's locked. Tow bar's already on there. Step into the back. Interesting spec. So I would just tidy up the door cards, either put a carpet set in it or just leave it rugged and have some fun. If you're into Land Rovers, you know the ruggedness, the imperfection is all part of the charm. Not many concourse Land Rovers out there, and long may it continue. Very functional bull bar and a big chunky winch as well. So you could get yourself into and out of trouble with that. And if you're going overlanding, put the biggest tent in the world on the roof. Lots of fun. And I say galvanised chassis on that one too. 1978, Mercedes-Benz 450 SEL. So not only is it the S-Class, she's the long wheelbase with a big engine. Not the biggest was obviously the 560, but have a look at that. I do love this late 70s era. It's an impressive looking 1970s flagship, low owners, recently serviced at a cost of 450 quid. We've got the invoice on the file. Loads of bills, stamped service book, most of those being Mercedes dealers. This was the car of the year in 1974. Not this actual one, obviously. The interior is very nice. Have a look in there. If you've never driven an S-Class, I can tell you two things. One is you will use a lot of petrol, but you won't care. Because don't forget, you're not going to be driving this every day. Although if you are driving it every day, call me, you're my hero. It's got some really nice stuff. So you've got a lot of things that happened on the first time on the S series, or the S-Class, should I say. It's just nice. Got some bills, got some receipts. Not a full and complete service history, but a very, very comprehensive history. Bodywork is very nice. Older paintwork, which I say looks very good. Tiniest bit of lack appeal on the roof. A little bit there. Yeah, just a super presentable thing. It's not going to break the bank either, guys. 6,500 to 7,500. It is a long wheelbase. It is in the best colour for a Merc, and it is the best interior colour. Just utterly super. And just little bits that you could do to make it your own and make it nicer. Yes, really, the main thing is just tiny bits of lack appeal, but it doesn't spoil the overall look of the car. I like it very much. 1968 Daimler. Again, we keep talking about Mark IIs, Daimlers, which would you rather have? I love this V8. It's tiny, it revs quite nicely, it sounds beautiful if you get a happy one, but the colour of this car, isn't this fabulous? The colourway of this, so the 1968 Daimler V8 250, really nice example of this saloon, automatic on this one. It's had a lovely interior refurbishment. Come and have a look at this trim in here, look. Door cappings are very, very nice. Got a lovely bench seat on the front. Got a fantastic dashboard. So the interior is pretty much perfect and the bodywork is very, very good. It's in regular use, it's got a Webasto style roof, it's got the push button radio, 8 former keepers with a bundle of invoices, no less than 5 lever arch files with service manuals in, service manual for the automatic gearbox. Just really charming little car. Any word I can use to describe this, it is charming. Utterly, utterly charming. Just the way it sits, the colour, the fact it's got the trim rings with the Daimler caps, the fact it's a Webasto roof. Obviously got quite a nice stainless steel exhaust on it as well. Doesn't it look good? It's got the X factor, that car. I can't describe it. Just things that are hard to define, but when everything hangs together, how it sits, the tyre choice, the colour, the interior, the fact it's a sunroof car, 7,500 to 8,500 would buy you that. And I just think to cruise around in, I'm quite beguiled by this, dear viewer, as you can probably tell. Let's have another look in there, look. And they're quite big, you know. If you are a larger gentleman or lady, same size as me, you'll fit in there. I think you'll be very comfortable. And also, we talk about the term practical classics. There's even a fine magazine of the same name. These really are practical classics. I wouldn't run it in the salt, but basically, put it away in November. It's got automatic boot look as well. Look at that. This is why they use them in all those bank jobs, you know, because you can get quite a lot of bags of money in there. Really decent sized boot, proper 4 or 5 seater. You can see here, look, there's a little bit of bodywork to do. You can just see she's starting to go on the boot. But you know, nothing that you couldn't fix easily or for not stupid amounts of money. And the car's so lovely and presentable in the meantime. Rolling restorations are the best kind. The ones that you can just, you know, have it in at the paces for a week or two and then take it out, run it around for another 6 months. That's the fire alarm test to keep you guys safe for the weekend. Now this is back in, and every time it comes in, it gets cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And at some point, we're going to find it at home. It's the third time lucky for this beautiful Carman gear. 1968, left-hand drive Carman gear. If it gets much cheaper, I'm going to have to buy it myself, just out of sympathy for what is actually a very nice gear. Carman gear, as I'm sure you know, is an Italian gear-designed body made of lots of little bits on effectively what is a Volkswagen Beetle running gear. It's actually more like a Type 3 wider floor pan, but they're cheap and easy to look after because most of the motive parts of Volkswagen Beetle, they're very, very easy to get bits for. And all you're really looking when you buy a gear is one that's got a decent shell. And if you're being pedantic, the earlier the better. What's nice about this is what we call a banana light gear. It's got the early backlights. little La Bananas at the back. It's also got the much thinner bumpers before they put the Europa bumpers on. So these are all very desirable things. Left-hand drive, you know my philosophy on left-hand drive, particularly with air-cooled Volkswagens. It normally means they've come from a drier, much better climate than our one here in the UK. I would buy a left-hand drive Volkswagen any day over a right-hand drive one, 9 times out of 10. Custom two-tone paintwork. And I've said this before, it'd be really, really easy to get this looking your way. It's obviously been done to a start. It's been done very well, I have to say. But if this isn't your style, it's not a big job. If you want to put the roof into the same colour as the body, which would transform how it looks, you could. It's very, very easy to swap the wheels. There's a few bit of just paint blistering. I'd imagine it's had a cover on at some point. It's got a bit of micro blistering on the bonnet and the tops of the wings, but it's just a really presentable, usable car. The air-cooled Volkswagen scene is stupendous. Some lovely, lovely people in it. Easiest car in the world to mechanically keep on top of. And there are 300 specialists in the UK that will keep this running sweetly for you. And again, so many things you can buy for it for not a lot of money to make it yours. £6,500 to £7,500 we've estimated that at. Somebody please come and buy it before I do. Right, moving on, Hondas. Always good news. Honda Prelude, 2.2 SI, recently imported, and it's only done 27,000 recorded miles. Just stupendous. If you've not driven one of these, they are magnificent. Automagic as well, come and have a look. Proper wafter. We did really well. There was a gorgeous Celica in the last sale, automatic. Japanese automatic coupes are probably the nicest way to get to work you can possibly imagine. So this one's done 44,000 kilometres, about 27,000 miles, and MOT till November of next year. It's the four-wheel steering model, this one as well. It was driven 160 miles here, under seal, it's got a recent cam belt. It's just very, very original. And like that Celica in the last sale, you could use that every single day. Every single day you could use that. Paintwork is, I give it a strong 8. If you machine polished it, you could probably get it to a 9, 9.5, because it's very good. It's got, imported from Japan in 2020. Our vendor is only the second registered keeper. It's the 158 bhp 16 valve version. It's had a recent service, including a new cam belt, which is one of the things you always check on these. New plugs, new brake pads, 4 new tyres, full underbody seal, an awful lot to love here. £5,000 to £6,000. If you're thinking of taking out a lease or a car finance, you're probably gonna have to put a couple of grand in, maybe £3 as a deposit, then spend £300-400 a month. Don't do that. Buy this. Buy this for £5,000 or £6,000. Drive it every single day, and I guarantee to you, it's a Honda, it will start every morning. It's under sealed, so the salt can't get to it. Have that instead. Put, I don't know, 100,000 miles on it. Probably still be worth £4,000. You'd have lost £2,000. You'd have driven that to work for 4 years. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. Finance nothing, own everything. It's the way forward. Moving on, another bargain car. 1998 Porsche Boxster, 2.5. Here we go. You remember what I was saying about those automatic drivers, cars that open up the market, they're a little bit cheaper to buy, probably will be a lot of fun to own, and then when you come to sell them, because the next generation of classic car enthusiasts will probably have automatic licenses, you might find you're in a very good place. This is a Tiptronic car. 78,000 miles, original condition, stamped service book, loads of invoices, matching tyres, leather interior. It's in silver. If you remember the original Boxster show car, that was also in silver. And £5,000 to £6,000. How are these cars so cheap? Just a really pretty little sports car. And how do you get into the Porsche brand? If you're looking for the bottom rung of the ladder to come into and buy a car that's usable, again, at this price point, not expensive to look after. The paint is very, very nice on this, I have to say. It's had some paint, but it's been done well. I don't mind cars having paint if it's done properly. Seats are very good, leather's very good, particularly on the driver's seat bolster. In its early life, the Porsche appeared to be serviced by official Porsche dealers with the last stamp in the book being at 77,000 miles, and the car is currently showing 78,000 miles. Paintwork and hood are good, so the hood is very nice, the guys say. Interior is clean and tidy, just usable. Don't let the snobs put you off. You know, people make jokes, yeah, it's the poor man's Porsche or whatever. Boxsters are actually brilliant. They really are. People that say that have never driven one. They are, in terms of handling and fun, probably the best Porsche per pound is possible to buy. Don't be put off by the automatic. Think about how you're going to use it. Don't forget, The people that road tested these cars when they were new are all these hardened, flinty-eyed Tillerman road testers that say it has to be manual, you have to heel and toe on the downshift. You're not going to drive it like that. You're going to waft around in the sunshine, enjoying life. And for that reason, an automatic works. So don't worry about it. Enjoy the saving. Enjoy the saving and buy on condition, price and history rather than on gearbox. Unless you're desperate for a manual. But if you're just cruising, enjoy the auto. Now, I like this. This car we've had in many, many years ago, and it's come back again after our previous owners had a few years of fun out of it. Isn't it epic? Isn't it epic? 2004 Chrysler PT Cruiser Classic. Now, you either love or you hate this period of what Chrysler are doing. Now, I have a bit of a passion for this weird period of Chrysler history. So Chrysler were basically creating concept cars and then just making them. So they did the Plymouth Prowler, they did the Dodge Viper, they did this. This was probably the one that was most sanitized from its concept car version, but it's still absolutely bonkers when you look at it. And this one is a manual 14,000 mile example, lovely condition, one former keeper, 2-litre petrol engine, original purchase receipt. Is it going to be a bona fide stone cold classic? Probably not. Do you care? No. It's just a really usable, fun car that you won't see many of on the road because, again, most of them rotted away, weren't looked after. I just love the retro styling. So we know that mileage is genuine. It's all backed up. Book pack, V5C, old MOTs, and as I say, even that original bill of sale. Just could do with a little mop, a tiny bit swirly on the roof, but super level. I might have a cheeky bid on that, you know. Because I have a Dodge Viper and I do have a Plymouth Prowler, and that's actually Prowler purple, very rare colour on a PT Cruiser. So it'd be quite fun to put that next to each other, wouldn't it? That could be a cheap bit of fun. And who cares? I don't mind about weird and wonderful cars. I just embrace weird and wonderful. I think it's what we're in the hobby for. Now this is wonderful, not weird, just unspeakably cool. 1984 Audi Quattro. Now, I like a tastefully modified car, you know that. This has been so well done, whoever's done this. May I tip my hat to you. I hope I meet you on sale day. Powerful, understated, proper little sleeper. Well, I say it's a sleeper. It's got these very expensive OZ wheels on. 123,000 mile, manual car. Looks stockish, other than the fact it sits really well on these OZs. I would say it's got some saucy, saucy brakes. Come and look at this, look. Looks stockish. Doesn't look stock at all. Got Brembos, massive Brembos stuck behind these OZs. You can just see a little bit of bubbling on the wing there to do. Tiny bit there. So just bear that in mind when you bid. But what you're buying is an opportunity to buy something utterly saucy with an amazing interior. There you go, look. So have a look at that, drink it in. Also look at the Cooler Works shifter if you've never experienced one of those. It's cable linked aftermarket shifter, which makes you feel like you're driving a touring car, and the shifts are so nice. There's the invoices on file for this car for £37,000. Professionally converted and upgraded by Paul's Classic Car Restorations in Mansfield. Let me tell you, 2021, look standard really is an Audi S2 engine mated to a B5 Audi RS4 6-speed manual gearbox. Brakes and suspension have been upgraded. It's got OZ racing wheels that you've seen, matching Nankangs, Mars red paint. So it is just an absolute thing. But what you are buying there, basically, as I say, is an S2 engine stuffed into an Audi Quattro and done to the cost of £37,000. Insane. But what would you buy it for? Well, bearing in mind it has cost £37,000 only a few years ago as well. Buy it for 12 to 14. So we're learning two things there. One is don't be the person that does that kind of work because it costs a lot of money. And secondly, be the person that buys the car after the person that's done that work because you'll save a lot of money. You'll save about £24,000. Could be my car of the sale that. Tiny bit of paintwork to do here and there. Absolutely stunning. Arrive at any Volkswagen show. But I think because of what it is and the fact it's a saloon, a car that gets the nod, certainly gets the nod from me, and I love the fact it's got the uprated brakes. Spectacular. Any word I can use for that. This car's back in. Mark, our resident fast forward enthusiast and detailing king, he's having a good look at it. This car was in the last sale. It's a little bit cheaper, and there was a tiny imperfection on the bonnet last time, but no more. The painter that did it was so upset, he's done it again, look. So the bonnet is now, perfect. So thank you to the painter that's done that, because it was literally the only pimple on the face of the supermodel in the last sale. It's now perfect. There you go. We love to get these cars looking as good as we can for you, or our vendors do. And I still think this represents last chance to buy a relatively bargainous one of these. The prices of the mint super low mileage ones of these are silly. Look at other RS models, look at Fiesta prices, look at Cosworth prices, look at normal RS 1600 right-hand drive prices. All RSs are big ticket items, we know that. You could buy this one for 18 to 22, and it has only done 53,000 miles from new. Got 5 stamps in the book. It's tastefully modified, which is what's making it a little bit less expensive. So it's running 340 horsepower, but it's had the cam belt done less than 10,000 miles ago. So why is it cheaper, I hear you cry? So it's got an awful lot more power than standard. I'm trying to work out from this listing here who's done it. There you go, performance and tuning, manifold actuator, Ken-N air filter, uprated brakes, 3-inch exhaust, remap, turbo kit, organic clutch kit, carbon fibre splitter. So it's all sorts of stuff that Ford lads love. Makes it a much better car. What it does is it also makes it much less expensive, because purists like the standard cars, enthusiasts like the modified cars. So if you are like me, someone would actually rather have it modified to this standard, this is a bargain, 18 to 22. And now with perfect paintwork on the front. Do have a bid on that. Guaranteed future classic status. If you wanted to be utterly pedantic, you could always put it back to standard and probably put a huge amount of profit in if you do. But why would you do that? Why not just enjoy it for what it is? It's a very fast and very pretty fast Ford. XR3i. I think it is now our legal requirement that we have one of these in every single sale. 1990 XR3i, really lovely example. 65,000 miles, it's a manual car, of course, that one. Factory sunroof as well, 3 keepers, totally standard, totally unmolested. And from what we can see, just as it left the line, just come and have a look in here. I don't even think this has had the seat adjusted. What you find with all old Fords, all of them, without exception, unless they've never been driven, is the seats, you get this tiny bit of wrinkling and sagging. You can tension it very easily and very cheaply. A good trimmer will pull that in. So that's not been done, but that's actually quite nice because you can see exactly how it was. Tiny bit, I think it's had a tiny bit of paintwork there. So that just wants re-blacking on the window surrounds, but it's all original. I don't see evidence of a huge amount of paintwork on this car at all. Very nice, very nice. So the V5 states it's an import, built in 1990, came from Jersey, this one. It was owned by the first owner until he passed away in 2004. So the son had no interest in Ford, shame on you. And it was the intention to bring it back to standard. The work that's been carried out, rear wheel cylinders, rear shoes change, rear wheel bearings, heat exchangers, bush kits, well, lots of work. £4,000 worth of previous keeper worth of bills. We have a lot of that history on file. If you are interested, please come and have a look. It does bear close scrutiny. Now the next car I like way more than I should. Way more than I should. Isn't this brilliant? Why do I like Citroen BXs so much? And not only is it a BX Estate. I can remember vividly taking one of these in part exchange. Would have been about 1997. I took it home for the weekend and I messed about with all the height adjustable suspension and just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I remember also seeing these when they first came out, I think about 84. I was on a holiday in France and I saw my first one, which was the hatchback version. And aren't they brilliant? I just think the styling of these has aged so well. This is a no reserve car, by the way, which has got me extremely excited, as you might imagine. So it is a BX16 TXD, and we think, don't know, but we think from our research, it's probably the only one left. 171,000 miles, manual. I just think you'll struggle for this money, because it won't be a lot of money. I don't think you could buy a cooler car in this auction for what this is going to go for. It's got a fresh MOT. Let me talk you through. It's had some paint, you can see, look. It's been inexpensively painted, as you would imagine a car of this age to be. So it's got a bit of overspray there, a little bit of bubbling on the tailgate, roof's a wee bit flat, but don't let that put you off. She is straight and level. And also what she is, ladies and gents, is the last one left. And look at this, look at the glass house on this. Because the BX, I do believe, was a Gandini design. I'm not sure if he did the estate, he certainly did the hatch. But that is peak Citroen, Citroen at the height of his powers. Let me try and give you some backstory. Amazing original condition, a year's MOT with no advisory, tons of service history, 3 previous owners. And he's got some invoices, some receipts. It's not a full history, but it's a good history. It certainly tells a tale, and it lets you have a look. So it's had some paint on the tailgate, it's definitely had some paint on the roof. What do you expect? It is epic, and it's no reserve, and you and I get to create the price on that. I will have a cheeky bid on that because I think it's too good, and I just love the fact that it's the last one left. I love to have a car that no one else has got. Now, a car that I used to have, even in this colour, 1983 Saab GL. So I had one in this same colour, which I called rhubarb, as in rhubarb and custard. And I'd had two air-cooled Volkswagens. I had a Beetle and a Type 3, and it was winter, and I was fed up of not starting in the morning and fed up of the heater not being very good. So I went out and for 300 quid bought basically the spit of this car. Not quite such a nice condition as this car, but this was my first 99. I bought one of these when I was 17, so it was like 35 years ago. And then it was a revelation to me, because as a 17-year-old kid bombing this round as my first reliable car, they are just astonishing classics. They really are. You can use them every single day. So you probably worked out for yourself, this is what the 900 is based on. So the 99 became the 90 and then became the 900. And they're really good little cars. They're just very strong, beautifully put together. I think fantastically styled by Sixton Sasson. And this is a 1968 shape. The car first came out in 1968. So by 1983, you can imagine this car is very well developed. They really know what they're doing. And this is very lovely. 5-speed as well, which is unusual. They're not all 5-speed. You've got all your trim bits. So at the moment, it's being de-trimmed. There's some stick-on trims that should be on the side. I think they look pretty without. But if you are a purist and you'd like them back on, there they are. All in the boot there. Spare wheel. Spare battery by the look of things as well. So that's a lot of fun. Now, £5,000 to £6,000, because that is a very expensive paint job on there. Someone's really restored that to a very nice condition. Can't stress enough, if you haven't had a classic car, you're looking to get into a classic car, something that you can use every day, maybe even in the winter. Get some good undersill on that. You can use that on a salty day as well. That could be the only car you ever need. They're a bit basic, 5-speed, no power steering, but what a wonderful thing, and so safe. And this is when bumpers were bumpers. You can very much have a little 5-mile-an-hour impact in that, and it just laughs it off. £5,000 to £6,000, that could be yours. Moving on to this, one of my favourite shapes of Z car, because nobody likes them. Except for me, I absolutely adore them. Everybody loves the earlier Zs, everybody loves a Z32. And this is kind of like the unloved one that sits in the middle, but I think they look fantastic. 1989, 300ZX 2+2. They look so American, I think. They really did. There was a Transformer, I'm sure there was, that was available as this. Please leave in the comments which one it was, because I can't remember. Automatic. So in some ways, this is kind of like the unloved sister of the Z range, but for that reason, nobody has kept many nice ones left, so they've become very, very rare. And this is a UK supplied right-hand drive car. Lots to tell you about this. 75,000 miles, automatics, 4 former keepers, 8 stamps in the book. We've got the original book pack, the original sales brochure, MOTs going all the way back to 1994 as well. And the vendor has said we've got a list of work going back for 9 years with new rads, new brakes, new paint, new tyres, new wheel refurbs, new shocks, tons. I can't even begin to go into the amount of work this car's had. It's had a lot. It's been done to a very nice standard. What we know is 80s and 90s cars are suddenly becoming very good news from a market point of view. And Japanese cars are always good news because they're so reliable and so usable. Do take your time if you're interested in looking at this car. Please look at the history. Please look at the listing on the website. There is so much to talk about. Isn't it nice? Original sales brochure, all of that. Lots to love. Doesn't need much that. Tiny bit of overspray onto the rubbers, but the paint, I have to say, is very, very good. What would you pay for that? £5,000 to £6,000. I don't think it will be long that you'll be able to buy them for that amount of money. All Z cars fetch a fortune. Doesn't matter which one they are. The 2+2s fetch slightly less, but all Z cars end up fetching a fortune. They are amongst the rarest, particularly in that condition. And don't forget, it's a UK right-hand drive car with wonderful service history. Another Saab 99 GL 5-speed. Now, I have the absolute spit of this car. Same model, 5-speed, white, with the blue velour interior. Come and have a look at this if you want to see a great, nothing more period, 1982 interior. So 1982, this is an 84. No reserve on this one. 139,000 miles, which Saabs laugh at. We think there's 70 left. It's got the Romeo Mini lights on, which are a lovely wheel as well. It's an interesting roof, this. This isn't a factory sunroof. This is a dealer fit or dock fit sunroof, but it is a genuine Saab roof, this, because if you look somewhere, there you go. It's got the Saab badge on it, if you can see that. So if you hadn't ordered your 99 from the factory with a roof, they could put that one in as what they call a dock fit or dealer fit. They'd put it in. Now, all Saab 99s, all of them, have sagging headlinings. This one has been done because the glue they used in the end of the 70s, start of the 80s, was useless. It was fire retardant, but it wasn't sticky. So all 99 headliners fall down. This one's been beautifully done. Seats are fabulous. Absolutely fabulous condition. Just a really nice car. No reserve. And like I was saying with a little beige one, just Fraser, come and look at this. Come and listen to this door. Do you remember that advert? They're going, oh, it's like a Golf, and then they shut the door. It's like a Saab. Much better than a Golf. Just so beautifully built. Clamshell bonnet. They're really safe. They're so usable, like I say. The only downside is, if you've never had a car with no power steering before, they are quite a big, heavy car to not have power steering. But you soon get used to it. You just learn to not park with dry steering, just get a little wriggle on, get a few mile an hour up, and she drives beautifully. The offset of having not power steering is they have so much feel. The handling of these cars is amazing. And even with just a 2-litre carburettor, they're mega. Now, I used to read Street Machine magazine avidly in my youth, and had I opened up a feature and seen this, I think I'd have had a small dribble. Isn't it beautiful, this? 1969 Vauxhall Victor hot rod. What an eyeful. What an eyeful. V8 hot rod. Isn't it fantastic? Paintwork is brilliant. Got a bench seat on the front. It's like a baby Yank, isn't it? It really is like a little baby Yank muscle car. Very tidy. Whoever's done this, kudos to them. It's been beautifully done. So many period touches like the foot accelerator. Look how nicely everything fits, including the shifter. Drives and presents really well. One of the tidiest hot rods for sale. I have to say, the problem with hot rods is the quality of the work really depends on the person that's put them together. Because of the scene, because the whole point was it wasn't an enthusiast scene. It's a bit hit and miss, but this one is very hit. Let's have a look in the boot. Wow. There you go. That's a big tank. It's probably going to sup quite a lot of that. If you can watch that on your telly, on your YouTube, imagine how this smells. Imagine how you think it smells. You're right. It's exactly how it smells. Lovely whiff of premium unleaded in there. Now, the engine bay is also being very detailed. Got a Chevy 5-litre V8 sat in the middle, Edelbrock cam covers, Holley air filter covers, super lights. It's just a thing. Do have a look at the pictures on that. I cannot even fathom how much money has gone into that. Lots. Love the colour, love the silver roof, love how it sits. It's very pretty and beautifully well done. There's pages and pages of description, but basically, management summary is beautifully prepared Chevy 5-litre V8. Should we just do it? Come on. I owe you this, guys. I can't show you this and not open this bonnet for you. Let's have a look. Pull the pins out. Ta-da! If you thought you wanted it before, I bet you really want it now. Look at that. Also, look at the size of that battery. It's huge. Really nicely done. Look at the quality of the fabrication as well. Yes. That is a car I would very much like to own. You know, who knows? We always say this, don't we? Every single auction. These are potentially the dying days of the automobile. We don't know how long we've got left to drive silly cars. This is a very silly car, and you should treat yourself to it and drive around with that amazing soundtrack. What I love about that is think of the age of the car. That's going to be MOT exempt, ULEZ exempt. Do me a favour if you buy that, drive it into the centre of London and just enjoy the fact that you won't have to pay the ULEZ charge. You have to pay your congestion, obviously, but you won't have to pay ULEZ. Right, pub trivia. What was the first Bond car in all of the Bond films? Does anybody know? It was a Sunbeam Alpine. Dr. No. They rented one on the island where they were filming it. And the first car that Bond ever drove on screen was not the Aston Martin, it was the Sunbeam Alpine. So you've got true Bond credentials here. This is a very pretty car. We did one of these on the show. They're brilliant. What I love about the Alpine, they're as pretty as an MGB, but they're a little bit rarer, no less fun to drive. And just a great car, great scene, good spares backup, lovely owners. This is a low owner car in original factory spec with new carpets. Good starter classic these. You could buy this for 5 or 6 grand. It's by no means perfect, but what it is very presentable and level. Again, just have some fun with it. My dad's first car, or his car that he loved most of all, before we came along as kids was one of these, and my mum made him sell it because he couldn't get kids in the back, which I think, you know, you could have got a couple of cots in there, look. If you're thinking of starting a family, I reckon you could squeeze a cot in there, be absolutely fine. A little bit of paperwork, some older MOTs, some stuff from the Sunbeam Owners Club, and some written service history. So not a full comprehensive history, not a concours car, but then you're not paying concours full history car money. 5 to 6 grand, and it's lovely. Looks really quite good. Bit of crazy, you know, there's stuff to do. There's value to add. They're the best cars to buy, aren't they? Cars that you can have a bit of fun with. That I like a lot. Great value. Jag XJs. Why, again, you know, why do I like BX estates? I am weird, I will admit that. Because the other car I really like, when I should be loving the Jaguar XJS convertible, which you could argue has the more pure aesthetic, there's something about the SC. So the SC is the early one, which effectively gives you 2 cars in one. So you can run this either as a Targa, just take the roof panel out, leave the back roof up. You can run it as a full convertible, take the Targa panel out, take the back roof down. Or if you're really weird, you can leave the Targa panel in and fold the back roof down. So many options. Why I like this one so much is it's a 3.6 manual. Someone's put the Jaguar Sport wheel on, which is quite a cool and now very expensive item to purchase. It's also got some really nice aftermarket wheels on this, which are like very Jag in their style, but they're a little bit wider and fatter than the standard wheel. Let's see who made those. Oh, Fonmetal. There you go, look at that. If you buy this car, by the way, and you really don't want those wheels, I will buy those wheels off you. I would like to put those on my Jaguar. I think they're fantastic. But a great car and a real price range car as well. So you've got a 3.6, so it's cheaper to run, a bit more fun to look after than the V12. It's a manual, so these are never going to be a sports car, but it just make it an awful lot of fun to row the gears. Lots to love there, 88,000 miles, tons of history, and a really nice colour combination on one of the nicest aftermarket wheels I've ever seen on a Jag. Yes, lots to love there. What else can I tell you? Full leather, cost option at the time, and a good history. Not complete, but lots and lots of stamps, lots of bills, and not a lot of money. £5,000 to £6,000 would see that on your driveway, I think. And the SCs are much, much rarer than either the coupes or the convertibles. And there is a real section within the motoring fraternity that prefers them too. There's a couple of stanced SCs on Instagram that I would recommend you seek out. They just look so good, they really do. And obviously a little bit safer and a little bit stiffer. They've got less scuttle shake than the standard convertible. Now, cars that everyone should have owned at least once of in their lifetime, the MGB. And this is a very nice 1977 Roadster. It's actually very level, I have to say. Very pretty. British Racing Green, the colour that everybody wants. 81,000 miles, she's a manual car, that one. Just an attractive looking car. We've spoken before about the big bumper cars. They represent to me something of a bargain because they're much cheaper than the chrome bumper cars. They're no less fun to drive. They're a lot more fun to park in modern traffic. If somebody kisses your bumper, doesn't really matter. And if you're really that bothered, you can always convert them to chrome bumper or no bumper spec anyway. But I would just enjoy the saving. This one's on 81,000 miles. It's registered as historic, which means everything is free. And it's just level. It's not, again, not a perfect car, just very, very clean, presentable, tidy. The odd little paint blemish and bubble, the odd little chip and mark. But who cares? At this price point, 5 to 6 grand, who cares? And the reason that these are up is that people have just been looking inside. So you can see you've got a nice boot there. Always check the door shuts on an MG. See, that shuts pretty decently. If you look, it's not bad at all. So I'd imagine that's had panels in at some point. It's very, very hard to get the bottom of the door matching perfectly. That's a very good job, whoever's done that. It's had an interior retrim at some point. It's just a nice, honest car. Again, same thing, enjoy it, add a little bit of value, polish and perfect the paint, maybe just recolonise the leather on the driver's side, and you will have a wonderful car. Welcome to the Mini room, which outrageously only has one Mini in it for this sale. So apologies for that. Normal service will be resumed for the next sale, I'm sure, and we'll have 5 or 6. But what we do have is lots of diminutive, small but perfectly formed classics at very sensible prices. Starting with this. How nice is this? MG TD. Again, we did one of these on salvage, actually, same colour as this. And it surprised me, A, that I could fit in it at all, and B, what good fun they were to drive. 10 or 12 grand would get you into that one. Right-hand drive, UK market example, with 2 former keepers. Roof's in lovely nick on that one as well. It's had the front and rear bumpers re-chromed to the sum of 722 quid. And it's got the 1250 X-Pag engine and a very nice dash, actually, I have to say. These are stonking value at the moment because this kind of 50 stuff that's meant to look like 30 stuff, this era of MG, it's just in quite a wonderful place where you get a really nice car for not a lot of money. Got a history on this car going all the way back to the 1960s. It's got a set of matching Michelins on it as well. So that is a bit of me, I have to say. I'm getting into the 30s, 40s and 50s stuff, you know. Now, if you're buying a car for an investment, in all honesty, 50s stuff at the moment is going softer, whereas 80s, 90s stuff, and we've got a lot of that in the sale, that's the stuff where you're probably going to make your money. But if you just want a nice car to have fun, enjoy the drive, and something you can fix yourself, this is very much that car. So don't discount it just because it's 50s. And of course, you've got all the fun of the 30s styling, but you've got things like steel wheels, which are a lot easier to look after than wires. So it's a little bit of best of both worlds, that one. I like that. Now, here's a car that I thought was brilliant when it came out. This is a Honda Civic CRX ESI, or the Del Sol as it was called in other markets. Now this is one of the ones with a very fancy roof. If you're not familiar with this car, this roof comes up in a very overly complicated way, very Japanese way, and folds into the middle. It does work on this. It's a little bit slow, a little bit pedestrian, but the team has had it working. You don't want to be in a rush to put it up or down. I'm sure there's a little bit of cleaning and maintenance you could do to make it better. But it has the roof that you want and it all works. Amazing history on this car, 21 entries in the service book, desirable manual model as well, fully operational roof, lovely unmarked interior. Paintwork's really quite decent, a few little chips and marks on the bonnet as you'd expect from a car from 1997. The roof waist wheels are very period, but if you're a purist, I'm sure you could find a set of the standard wheels and put it back and probably make it worth a lot more money. It's nice, it really is nice. Again, it's one of those cars you can buy a drossy one for 3 or 4. Just stretch yourself, pay 5 or 6, buy this one. Because really, apart from if you want to swap the wheels back to make it look factory correct, and it's probably worth it from an investment point of view, or just drive it like it is. 2 sets of keys, the interior, everything about it just screams that the mileage is correct. And of course, it's a Honda. If you look after it, it'll just go for absolutely ever. And I think it's very pretty, and I love the colour, which is the most 90s colour ever. 89, Austin Mini 30. Obviously, the car came out in 1959. It was a brilliant idea. They didn't really have to change it. So here we are in 1989, almost selling the same thing. Looks good, doesn't it? I always think this is one of the prettiest specials, this one. So we've got John Cooper stripes on. These aren't really a Cooper. But it's driven at 50 miles to hour at showroom here. One of only 2,000 made, half leather seats, very original interior. And a very honest car, this. So if you look around it, you've got a few marks, bit of lack appeal, a few chips. Nothing that's scaring me. But what you are getting on this is a little room for improvement. So if you have a budget aside to do a little bit of paintwork somewhere down the road, or you are a painter, if you are a painter, this is the car for you to buy. It's got a lot of wonderful things. Just needs a little bit of superficial tidying. 8 former keepers, a V5C, an MOT through to September next year, some old MOTs and tax discs, and a bundle of invoices for parts and maintenance. So the invoice doesn't do the car justice, because our vendor's job is tuning cars. I think mechanically you're onto a bit of a winner there. I think you've got all the bits and it drives beautifully. Just get those small aesthetic bits done here, there, and all over, and have a very, very nice car. But because of that, it's going to be cheaper. £5,000 or £6,000, where a nice 30 can easily get into the teens. So that's a good way to buy it. We always have to have, again, it's a legal requirement of every sale that we have a car that's suitable for the Festival of the Unexceptional, and potentially we always try and give you a car that you might be able to win with. This is it. Haggerty's Festival of the Unexceptional, one of the coolest shows ever on the calendar. And the whole point is you take a car that, as the name suggests, is unexceptional, a car that your dad or your mum or your granddad or your granny would have bought in period. If it's got wheel trims, that's an extra tick. If it's a more basic spec, that's an extra tick. But because they're kind of bottom of the range cars, nobody thought to save them and you never see them anymore. So cars that were once on every street corner are now rarer in some cases than the higher up cars in the range. This is a 214 SI and it has done under 6,000 miles. It's been recently recommissioned, really nice silver and black. Interior looks great, it's got the original book pack. Service book's got a few stamps. Obviously it hasn't done a lot of mileage. I'm guessing at some point this has been stored very well, I have to say. And it's been recommissioned, but I would probably imagine that back seat's never been sat in. But what is a car like that worth? Well, the good news is our vendor has very cleverly put it in at no reserve. So you get to choose. In fact, that's so stiff, that's never been open. That door, that hinge actually needs greasing. I don't think that's ever been open. So that I can see that's got cover marks. So just where the cover's been on it, but they're coming off, look, even with my finger. You know, if I had this little tiny bit there, look, I'd say just where the cover's been sitting. So a tiny little bit of paint to do on the wing top. So again, little dent on the bonnet, little dent there. They're just storage marks. You can just tell it's a car that's been put into storage somewhere. Something's probably been lent on it. Wouldn't take a lot to make that show quality. It really wouldn't. It's a no reserve car. You tell us what you think it's worth. Peugeot GTI 1.6, the purest choice. A little bit lighter, a little bit better balanced than the 1.9, which is ultimately faster, but purists say the 1.6 is the car that you want for hustling through the corners. Even if the 1.9 might get there a couple of seconds earlier, you'll have more fun in the 1.6. Look at this, isn't this nice? 1988, very original looking car actually. Manual, 118,000 miles. Seats are very nice. Bit of appropriate bolster wear there, look on the driver's side. These always used to collapse because everyone used to swing in on these. Carpet sets look very, very good. So it's had a restoration. Again, it's an older restoration, this one. It still looks very, very good. It's got the 1600cc, 5 previous owners, and a good service history. It's got the proper parcel shelf, I believe. Look at that, nice uncut parcel shelf. That's an inexpensive way, because that's 10 or 12 grand to get into that. And it's a really clean level car. Nice, appropriate aftermarket exhaust on there as well. Top of the 205 market is somewhere between 25 and 30. So to buy something like this at 10 or 12, which is usable, presentable, really nothing to do. If you're being utterly pedantic, you could just get that bolster pumped back up again, little foam insert in there would make a nice job of it. Good car, that. I like that a lot. 10 to 12 grand. Fiat 500s have become the bargain classic car. Again, it's going back to stuff that's almost 60s derived, but this is a 72 car, this one. Right-hand drive, as you can see. Lovely older restoration in a fabulous colour. Being super pedantic, got a bit of micro blistering there. Again, if you feel where they are, you've got it there. A tiny bit there. That's covered, which when people cover them, just be careful if you cover your cars, folks. Because you can see where that's just micro blistered there. And imagine it's just where the cover's sat on it and it's sweated a little bit. Now, in a lot of cases, you can get that out without painting it. If you just very carefully get a detailer or a painter to wet flat that, you can often come out of that right side up for not too much money. MOT exempt, of course. Beautiful, flat, level car, lovely straight panels, really nice interior. And apparently reputedly owned previously by TV's Ed China. I will ask him if that's true. I'll send him a text in a minute and say, Ed, it's the right colour. He does love an orange. Does our Ed? The thing about Ed, would he even fit in it? That's the question. Ticks a lot of boxes. Very nice, very clean car. And not a lot of money. £8,000 to £9,000 with the roof. I bet if Ed did own it, he'd have to poke his head out the roof. I'm going to find out for you before Saturday. If you are here on Saturday, come and find me and I'll find out for sure if that was Ed's car before. Right, Goggamobile. You never see them for sale, ever. If you're looking for the car that inspired the car in The Incredibles, this is it, basically. If you want to look like Mr. Incredible or Mrs. Incredible every time you go for work, drive this. They look like a cartoon, don't they? 1958, very, very rare early one, this one. 32,000 miles, proper little micro car. Takes up no space, really solid, really nice colour, good interior. Let me open that up for you as well. Suicide doors, of course, on this one. Look at that. If you're looking for something as an alternative to a Mini, I think these are it. So they didn't produce them for very long. I think they only produced these for like 12 or 13 years, and we didn't ever see that many of them in the UK, but this is a right-hand drive, this one. Some history with it, and quite decent on the bodywork. Again, it's an older paint job, and it's an older, less expensive paint job. So it's shiny, it's presentable, and it's everything you want a car of this value and size to be. Just lots of fun and usable, and have some fun taking it to shows. But it's not a show winner. It's just a lovely, clean, tidy little car. I like that a lot, and the seats are nice too. What would you pay for that? £5,000 to £6,000. Or a left-hand drive Fiat 500. Now, if you're buying a city car, particularly a city car that doesn't overtake because it can't, because Fiat 500s have no power. It's not why you buy them. Just chuff them along. looking impossibly cool and feeling good about yourself with the roof back. So a left-hand drive car doesn't matter, because actually for a city car, to be on the left-hand side is actually easier to get out on the curb. 500L 1971 had a lovely restoration, but because it's a left-hand drive, it's going to be cheaper than the right-hand drive one, which is silly. Imported into the UK in 2020 from Italy, so I would wager on probably a really nice rust-free shell. It appears to have a new folding roof, matching set of Cinturatos, and the vendor says it's a rust-free shell, and I believe him. Look inside there, look. So clean. A spare wheel and car jack. Just a pretty, pretty little car, that is. And like I say, if you're driving in this country, you'll get used to the left-hand drive so quickly. You'll sell it very easily on the continent. Certainly we'll be listing this internationally. I'd imagine some of our bidders on this car will be from overseas. And they're just trendy and they're just always desirable, but the prices are getting less. We sold a mint one on Salvage Hunters for in the 20s. And all of a sudden these Fiats have become incredibly affordable. And I don't know if that will last. It's kind of at the bottom of a curve. It's probably a good time to buy them. And even if you've only got a tiny garage, you can still fit them in. Pageant blue Triumph Spitfire. Isn't that pretty? 1972 Spitfire Mark IV, which I actually think, controversially, is the prettiest of all the Spitfires, because I really like the cam tail. They gave the Spitfire Mark IV the cam tail, which if I make Fraser run round the back, he'll show you, which I actually prefer because it's like a little baby stag, and I think it's the most resolved of all the styling. Now, the Spitfires are an absolute bargain. Everybody raves about the Mazda MX-5, and quite rightly so. They're absolutely brilliant. But you kind of get the same thrilling appeal out of a Spitfire for about the same sort of money. 5 or 6 grand to buy this one. It's an 80,000 miles, had loads of money spent, had a replacement gear linkage kit, new wiring loom, new stainless steel silencer, new exhaust tips, loads of MOTs going all the way back to 1994. It's had a new battery, wiring loom, new brakes. We've actually sold this car before, you know, and it had, I think, from memory, wolf race slots, which I like, and white walls, which didn't really suit it. But what the vendor's very cleverly done in the interim period while they've been enjoying it is put it back on the factory steels, which not only looks more authentic, it's probably doubled the attractiveness and desirability of the car. So it was always a very nice car. It now looks really factory standard. And going back to what we're saying about that Honda, if you want to sell to the most number of people, just put it back to factory fresh. Everybody wants to buy it. Really lovely, pretty car, beautifully presented. That really needs nothing. Even the hood looks good, and the hood bow looks good. Just summer fun. Just a lot of summer fun in a very pretty car. And Pageant blue, I think, was one of the nicest period colours. Let's look at some more cars, shall we? You join us outside, team, and I'm suffering from my art here because it's very cold today, because it's nearly Christmas. But there are lots of beautiful and cost-effective classics to keep me warm. This is my favourite bit, you know, that when we come outside, because all the stuff here is very, very price advantageous, shall we say, very tempting. And let's start with this straight away. 2003 Mercedes-Benz SL 55 AMG, absolute weapon, Autobahn Stormer. These are just astonishingly fast, not fast by modern standards, fast by any standards. 130,000 miles on this, original 5.4 litre V8 in these. They are just ridiculous if you've never driven one of these. Supercar performance, supercar looks, everything you want, but even better, no reserve. And what's interesting about this car is it looks very level and tidy. Obviously it's raining a bit. A little bit of discoloration on the alloys. If you wanted to make it beautiful, you'd have a go at the alloys. We've got a bit of rain on the paint, so I can't give you my full evaluation of the paint, but it looks nice. What can I tell you? Time has been kind to the design, I would certainly say. It's had a new windscreen fitted. It's been dry stored for the last few years, and it had the expiry of the last MOT in 2022. So from what I can see, team, that's out of MOT and will need a little recommission. So do give yourself some budget to make that perfect. But can you think, it's no reserve, so you get to set the price. That could be the performance bargain of the sale. I mean, that is almost sort of Ferrari 360/430 quick, an SL55. Buy that, put a few quid into it, have an awful lot of fun. Slightly more sedate, but no less lovely. 1960 Rover 100 P4. Now, I've always liked these. They are, in some ways, a slightly ungainly looking car, but I think they hang together quite well. This one is very nice. What can I tell you? It's done 93,000 miles. Interior is very, very nice. I can open the door on this, Fraser. Just come and have a look. Dashboard's beautiful, actually. Interior's in very nice. And of course, you get the suicide rear doors. Look at that, you get suicide rear door on these. Look. Someone's been looking at the battery look to start it up. Now the nice thing about these is they're not huge amounts of money. So £5,000 or £6,000 will buy you this, even with that low mileage. It's got the 2.6 six-cylinder in it, recovered front seats, and of course they're independently adjustable. It's got a nice period radio, nice wood kit in there as well, which is in lovely condition. It's an older restoration basically, and I don't need to tell you what I think about those. I love old restos. Anyone can make a week-old restoration look good. If you've got a car that's sat in its paint and its trim for a long, long time, and it still looks nice, looking around all the places we'd expect to see a little bit of bubbling, she's looking very, very lovely indeed. £5,000 to £6,000 you could buy that. Great club for the Rovers as well, really lovely. Good people. Just an interesting car. What a lovely inoffensive car. This was the bank manager's car of choice in period. If you were a fair to middling bank manager, this would definitely be what you'd like head office to have put you into as your choice of car. And of course, if you were the bank owner, you'd have had a Rolls Royce. This is the most lethal thing in the world financially, is the £6,000 Rolls Royce, because they're so tempting. I mean, look at it, look at it. This is a 1987 Silver Spirit, and we've estimated this at £5,000 to £6,000. And it comes with that fabulous number as well. That reg number is staying with it. That's probably £1,000 or so's worth. So you could buy this between £5,000 and £6,000. Let's talk about how you're going to go around to your family's house this Christmas and say, Mum, Dad, have you seen my Rolls Royce? And they'll think you're doing so well, and actually you've spent £5,000 or £6,000. This isn't kind of your normal cheap rubbish as well. There's a lot of, you've got to be careful. A lot of dross in the £5,000 to £6,000 category. This very much isn't. This is just being sold due to our vendor just basically not using it enough anymore. But you can see the condition of the paint, particularly the leather. Because you can buy an absolute snotter for £4 and a really nice one for £6. So I would say spend a couple of grand more. Don't get me wrong, you are going to have to find that specialist. You are going to have to put a little bit of money into it, keep it nice, keep on top of it, and understand that when things go wrong, they will be expensive because it is a flagship motor car. Lots of history, Avon tiles all around, which is always a good thing. Original book pack as well, some stamps in there. One of the services in this car was done in Monte Carlo. Can you get anything more Rolls Royce than that? I'm just in Monte Carlo. I'll have my Rolls Royce service while I'm there. That's rather cool, isn't it? Paintwork is decent. Some evidence of paintwork being attended to at the front end and the bonnet area. Some light surface rust around the driver's rear arch is telling me here as well. But it looks good. So come and have a look, particularly come and have a look in the drive, because obviously it's been raining here. I can't give you my normal paintwork précis. And you can see a very slight shade difference between the bonnet and the wing. But who cares? £5,000 or £6,000. I just can't think of anything else I'd rather smoke about than that for £5,000 or £6,000. Absolutely magnificent car. And the sense of occasion you get when you're driving one of those is something else. Now let's talk about cars that are rude. Vauxhall Monaro. Loved these when they came out. So Vauxhall decided, because they didn't have a muscle car, they'd go straight to their Australian American range, because this was also sold in America as a Pontiac, this car as well. And of course, as a Holden Monaro in Australia, just brutal, really great cars. V8 engine, automatic. This is one owner plus demo. It's a 6-litre V8, this one. Absolutely ridiculous, and it's locked, so I can't show you inside. A little bit of sort of paint degradation on the edge of the handle there, I can see. But I think bona fide stone cold classic. Also, these are so tunable as well. There's an amazing place called Wartech who did a lot of the British mapping on these cars down on the south coast. If you take it there, Paul and his team can work absolute wonders. They're astonishingly fast anyway, but with a little bit of work, they are brutally fast. And I think, you know, of its time, certainly late 90s, early noughties sort of styling, I think they hang together very well. I think they're very inoffensive. They're great fun to drive. They're not by any means sophisticated, but that's not why you buy this car. It's got as well a custom stainless steel exhaust, so I can't start it for you now, but I bet if I could, it would sound beautiful. What else has it got? Black leather inside, you can see. Full fat 6-litre, K&N air filter, and I would imagine that is probably a little bit quicker than standard with an uprated exhaust and an air filter. If it hasn't been mapped, worth getting mapped, because it will just be fun, an awful lot of fun. As I say, not ridiculous money, knocking on the door of supercar performance again with this, £14,000 to £16,000. And I think because it's a blue collar hero, because it's a bit more accessible in terms of an outrageous performance car, for that reason, you haven't got to explain yourself. If you turn up at a Ferrari or a cost price Lamborghini, which should probably have the same sort of performance, you're in a different set. With this, you know, you're with your own people. A lot to be said for blue collar cars. Now here in this gap, is a beautiful Citroen Saxo. Can you see it? No, you can't, because it's at the MOT. So we might either flash up a picture here. I'll tell you about the Citroen Saxo anyway, just in case it doesn't come back in time. It's at the MOT because the vendor's so confident of how good the car is, he's going to put 12 months ticket on it for you. 32,000 miles, low mileage, low owners, very unspoilt, and with a fresh MOT. It's also the two-tone. So have a look at that. No reserve. Citroen Saxos are probably the last max power era hatch that hasn't yet hit stupid money. They probably will. They probably will. Simply because AX GTs are starting to go up now. Everybody had one. There's a whole sector of ownership of people that wanted them in period. Tons of them got modified. Loads of them got crashed. A lot of them rusted away. So to find a nice mint original one, like this one that's flashing up on screen now, this is your chance to buy. No reserve. Get going. Get going on that work. And 12 months fresh MOT. Now, you may have seen in the previous sale, I bought a Z3 2.8 manual for Mrs. Cowland in a previous sale, and my word, she's had some fun with that car. I forgot how brilliant these were. This is a 1.9, so it's a bit cheaper to run. Narrow body car, no less lovely. And of course, this has got the James Bond wheels on it as well. If you remember, this car was famously launched in James Bond with those wheels. Z3 1.9, 67,000 miles, 2 former keepers. Really nice manual with matching Uniroyals. Roof works beautifully. It's got a carjacking toolkit. It looks like, with the MOT history online, that looks like a genuine mileage as well. And when you think of the age of it, it's really good. They look very good in silver, these as well, I think. They are a lot of fun. What will that cost you? Well, it's no reserve, so you totally get to make up the price. And having spent a few miles and days in the one that we bought from here the other day, yeah, they're astonishingly good. And I have to say, this roof looks really decent. It's wet, so I can't really see everything. I would say that's had a new roof, you know. It looks a little bit too good to be the original roof. But that saved you a few quid. That there, see, that's where someone's polished it and the polish is flicked onto the roof. Number one, if you're detailing a car, mask your roof off. But secondly, that can all come off. Good, there's a couple of products that will take that away. So don't worry too much about that. Yeah, that's nice. No reserve car. Buy them now. December is the perfect month to buy convertible cars. The prices are a little bit softer. And then when spring rolls around, there it is, sitting in your garage, ready to go. And being a BMW, it'll start, it'll run. It's the 1.9. Fabulous little thing. No reserve. You make up the price. Right, Sierra Cosworth Sapphire 4x4. You're thinking, I can't afford this, Paul. Well, the good news is, this one needs a little bit of love, this one. It's a good car, level car, but there are bits and pieces to do because it's largely original. There's a bit of work to do. It's had a recent timing belt change. It's a 4x4, and of course it's in moonstone, which is the best colour. It's got the leather interior. We always seem to have cars that we have to sell every single sale. Cozzies are one of them. A little bit of discoloration on the black trims here. That's very easy to sort. You are going to have to do bits and pieces to this. Let me try and give you a little bit more information as well. What have we got history-wise? Original gearbox, side skirts. It doesn't tell me much about the history, so I don't think we've got an enormous amount of full history on this, but please do check the book packs. Like I say, for every single listing, whatever paperwork we've got, whatever books, we'll do a little flick through video. And if you're not sure with all these days to go, just give us a bell. We'll happily talk you through it. And if you want to come in person, you can open up the book packs, open up the invoice packs, go through every single one for yourself. That's the beauty of auctions. You think about it, when you go and look at a car on a driveway, you've got to make a decision there and then because other people are coming around. The beauty of an auction is we start these viewings on Wednesday. You've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday morning. All that time to look through, do your research, speak to your insurer, measure the garage, speak to the other half, all of that before the sale day, so that you're relaxed, you're ready. You can make a sensible financial decision on whether you want to buy one of these lovely classic cars and what kind of money you're going to have to spend to put it right. You know all of that before you start to bid. It's good to know. This is nice. 1982 Mercedes SL 380 with the factory hardtop, which you always have to get. 98,000 miles, automatic, in this rather nice cream, which I do rather like, with black interior. Recently recommissioned, which is always good. These seem to be now, I can remember when nice SLs were well into the 20s, knocking on the door of 30s, and they've suddenly, even good ones, have come back down into the teens now. And there's not much touches them in terms of build quality, longevity, classlessness. Again, one of those fantastic cars you can park anywhere, and there's an assumption of old money. They have a good look to them. And this is very nice, I have to say. Mexican hat alloys, which is good, brown and tan, all the dials seem to work, the soft top's nice as well. Not a massive amount of paperwork with this, so please bid with that in mind. But it's got a V5, a couple of invoices for work carried out, some previous MOTs and MOT history. So we've got some, but not all. It's not comprehensive, but because of that, it's priced accordingly, £12,000 to £14,000. And being the 380, it's fast enough, but not crazy, crazy engine. Now these I've always loved. Always loved the 94 anyway, but you know, if you park the 4-cylinder snobbery to one side, the 94S, which contains many of the parts of the earlier 944s, so you've got the bigger engine, you've got the 5-stud hubs, you've even got the tele-die wheels. What a 924S is basically is a narrow body 944. Really nice car, and the most cost-effective way to get into Porsche ownerships with a transaxle car. So when I say transaxle, engine's here, all the way the engine's here, gearbox is at the back with a rear axle. So what you get is this lovely weight distribution where the car is almost 50-50. And for that reason, like the 944 we were talking about earlier, they're particularly well balanced, particularly nice to drive. And I have to say, this one looks very level and clean. It's been with the current owner since 1991. That's good news, isn't it? We love that. Desirable manual, original spec, factory sunroof as well, 4 former keepers, lovely black pinstripe interior. This is shouting lots of good news. The Porsche shows a touch under 60,000 miles and has been with the current owner since 1991. So 2.5 litre these, manual, just phenomenal thing. And this looks, I mean, it's really hard to tell when it's been raining. This looks very clean. There's a little bit on the wing edge there, if you can see that. Tiny bit to do there. What the rear arch is like. Let's have a look. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. Do you know what? That's a car that wouldn't need a lot to make really, really nice. And it's a no reserve car. I think the days of the cheap 924Ss have to be numbered because the 944 prices are coming up. And in some ways, because it's lighter, narrower, more nimble, some people prefer the 924S over the early 944. I like the aesthetic of the wide arches. That will be a hilarious amount of fun. Very balanced. As a track car, we built one on an old telly show I did as a track car, and it was huge amounts of fun. Very predictable, much more predictable than a 911 to drive on the limit, and a lot cheaper to run, and a hell of a lot cheaper to buy. That's in Guards Red. Get it bought. Now, my mate Ed, Twin Cam, has done a lovely video on this, so if you are seriously considering this fantastic and super rare Granada Gear 4x4, do watch his video. He's done a fantastic job of that. 1990 Granada 2.9 Gear 4x4. Ultimate boss dad spec, basically. If your dad came home from this, he was winning the company car pool lottery. Nobody's dad came home with one of these. This is top of the tree. My dad had a Sierra GL, tells you where we were in the pecking order of things. His boss probably had one of these. Isn't this awesome? You don't see these at all. So it's manual, it's 2.9, and it's 4-wheel drive, and it's pre-facelift, so it's the pretty one. And it's got a massive boot. This is ultimate practical classic. As long as you've got it nicely waxed oiled underneath and give it a good wash off every weekend. Ultimate winter classic as well, isn't it? But this car, somehow, we've managed to get this in at no reserve, which I love. It's insanely clean. 3 former keepers, manual, 10 stamps in the book with book pack. One of only 13 left. That I do completely believe. Because I can't even think of the last time I saw one of these. They weren't that common in period, to be fair. The mileage is commensurate with the interior. It's got a little bit of a mark here and there, you know, a little tiny scuff on the corner of the bumper there. The paintwork looks pretty good, I have to say. I say, please caveat everything I'm looking at here with the fact it is raining. They say never view a car in the rain. So please do come back. We've got lots of pictures online, lots of videos, and of course do come and view the car, or if you'd like us to have a look at the car for you properly, we can. If you want to come and we'll towel it off you, anything you need to help you have a look. Very, very nice. I can't believe they've got that in at no reserve. I think that could be worth a few thousand, but it will be a veritable bargain. You know, it will be single figure thousands, this. And I just think, what a car you could drive every single day. Ultimate waftmobile, that. Very pretty car. And watch Ed's video, that'll tell you everything you need to know. SL280 on the rims, 1996. Isn't that a bit of you? In the right colour as well. This facelift SL is utter bargain. Utter bargain. The first one, which is a little bit sharper on the bumpers and the edges, I think is the more pure. But obviously these are actually a more evolved and sophisticated car in many ways. 72,000 miles, low mileage for the year with a long MOT, and it's got the monoblock alloys on, which I think is superb. Now, it will need a little bit of tidying. It's got a little scuff on the bumper here, a little scuff down the side there. It's got a few bits and pieces to do. She's not mint, but she is very presentable and very tidy. The leather looks half decent. A little bit of greening on the roof, which will scrub up lovely, I would say, because the roof's actually in quite good condition. You've got the UV damage on the stitching that you always get. So the paintwork is presentable with minor marks. The monoblocks look really, really good. There is no hard top and the boot lock is also missing. So please bear that in mind. With these price sensitive cars, they are not, for obvious reasons, perfect. If they were perfect, we'd be asking on behalf of the vendor lots of money. So when we're putting no reserve, the vendor's being incredibly sensible and understanding there's value you can add, there's jobs for you to do. So do take your time, look at the photographs. When you go into the listings, not only are there the main photos you see, there's a little button that says additional photographs, and that's where we go into the stuff that other auction houses don't show. That's the rust bubbles, the scuffs, the marks, the things that our vendor wants to show you so that all the cards on the table and you know what you're buying. And that one, as I say, is no reserve. I think that could be, with a few £100 worth of paint and detailing, a very, very nice car. And I think you'd have an awful lot of fun next summer if you bought that. Great potential, that one. So just a roof clean and dye would make a huge difference to that. The Mondeo 2.5 V6 ST24. Again, going back to dads who were winning the office car park, if your dad had this as his company car, he was cool. Year 2000, so that is now nearly a 25-year-old car, can you believe that? A no reserve car, but a car that has had £2,200 worth of expenditure very recently. 5 former keepers, so the offside sill and near side sill redone, full engine service, new alternator in 2024. There's 6 stamps in the book. There's a tiny bit of seat pulling, I can see through the window. Little bit of seat stitching to do. That's a very easy and cheap repair at your local trimmer. Full book pack and wallet, and there's only 114 of these left. Isn't this interesting? Because these are at the moment a relatively unloved Ford. Don't forget, this car has proper touring car credentials. The Mondeo, this shape of Mondeo, was the one that Nigel Mansell drove. Do watch that clip on YouTube as well if you want to get yourself all excited. They're a great car, dynamically, in terms of the way they handle. It's a nice engine. They're pretty easy and cheap to look after. And this one is lovely on the body, actually. It's obviously had some sill repair, but a lot of money has been spent recently. And again, I'm sure you can add value, but that's a no reserve car that's just had 2,200 quid spent. And before you know it, they'll all be gone. We all wish that we'd bought them at auctions like this and tucked it away and finished it off and made it nice, because that's an interesting little car. Now this, I would like this as my daily driver. We all know my love for Saab. Possibly the greatest car manufacturer to have ever lived. This is nice, isn't it? 2.8 V6 sport wagon Hirsch conversion. So it's a 9.3 Aero 2.8 with a Hirsch conversion. A £5,000 upgrade to do that when it was new, but it made them so nice. You've got the Aero kit anyway, which is the much nicer, really subtle Aero kit on there. Driven to the sale room, one of only 200 Hirsch cars. So that gave you the 345mm brakes, the 10mm lower suspension, and the Hirsch twin spokes. And spec from the factory with climate control, tint, and a whole load of lovely, lovely things. And it's just been recommissioned in 2023 to the sum of 1,400 quid. That's had some love. Again, you can buy tired versions of these for not a lot, and then you've got to spend a load of money on them. But this is one that's had the love, had the care, been looked after on what is already a very nicely spec car. It's a classic case of spend a little bit more money, get a much nicer car. What we spend on that, 6 to 7k for what is essentially a very rare car. And going back to my point, don't lease a brand new car, because most brand new cars are boring. There's a few exceptions out there, but most brand new cars are boring. Don't spend 300-400 quid a month leasing a car. Get something like that for £6,000 or £7,000 that you could drive every single day, quite quickly, where legally appropriate. Get the dog in the back, take the kids to school. That is all the car you'll ever need, and it's a Saab. Really, really safe. A lot of fun, great car. Splitters, I love them. I've got one. This is pretty. So what's that? 13 window or 11 window? Yeah, 11 window. 11 window split screen. 1967. So getting towards the end of the split screens before they changed into a bay window. And that just is nice, isn't it? Coral pink, 26,000 miles showing, which I imagine will either be a speedo reset around the clock. Really nice colour combination. Twin side doors, extra rear seats as well. So this has basically been set up as a microbus. So this is a good, it's quite nice in a way, you know, because most of these get turned into campers. And campers are great because obviously you can camp in them, but actually what's great about this, if you've got a larger family or you're a blended family and you've got loads of kids, there aren't many classic cars you can get all of you in. This being a splitty with the 3 rows of seats, you really can. And I can remember, you know, when nice level buses like this were 30, 40, even 50 grand. And this is straight. You always look down the side of a split bus, because if they've had sides in, it's really hard to get them straight. It's such a big panel, this. If you put this panel in, it's so hard to get it in without some kind of heat distortion. And if you look down there, that really is quite nice, though. So either that's the original panel, and it's from a dry state country, because it is left-hand drive. Let me see what I can tell you about this. US dry state. There you go, left-hand drive. That's why the sides are so straight, because normally when you see a restored one, they've had to put the panels in and the heat distorts them. So I would wager, you know, it's obviously had paint. I would wager they're the original sides, because they're just too good. Either that or the person that restored it is an absolute genius. But these 67s, really quite drivable, nice thing. I think at that kind of money, so we've got this up at 14 to 16, I don't think you'd lose an awful lot of money on that. They do not cost a lot to keep going because they're air-cooled Volkswagens. A gazillion specialists, every single job on this car is on a YouTube video somewhere. That's great value, fantastic value in fact. If I hadn't got one, I would have a little go on that. This is good news, isn't it? I need a new big trailer because my little trailer is too small. So I'm going to have a bit on this. No reserve. I can't even pronounce this. Niawadao. I'm guessing it's from the Far East. BR2 trailer, no reserve. Transported a car here. Looks to be in fabulous condition, all galvanised. I'm guessing probably comes with some quite sizable ramps. Let's have a look. Yes, there's two enormous ramps on the back. The only thing I would say is quite high trailer because it's an above wheel trailer. So if you're transporting really, really low cars, I don't know how long the ramps are, which will obviously affect what kind of cars you can load. But she's a big girl. You get a lot on there, I would say. But that's no reserve. I will be honest with you, I'm going to have a cheeky bit on that because I need a bigger trailer. And that looks like a very good, cost-effective way to do it. Not much to report, really. Just in lovely condition. If you've got a set of straps, and the hitch looks very clean and very new. What electrics have you got there? Electrics with an adapter, so you've got both kind of electrics as well. That's good news. Let's get involved with that team. Has it got a jockey wheel on? No, it's missing its jockey wheel. It's the only thing that it hasn't got is a jockey. Going past this lovely Land Cruiser, which we might come back to in a minute. That looks very good news. To the Maserati Quattro V8. Now I have an unbridled amount of love for these cars. It goes along with my 6 grand Rolls Royces. Cars that you should own at one point in your life, that you will enjoy immensely while you're driving, that may possibly at some point give you a bill or two, but they're so adorable and so lovely to be with when they are good. You can forgive them when they're bad. 2009 Maserati Quattro V8, classic Italian chic. And a ticket into this club, £7,000 to £8,000 we're talking about here, which is insane. Absolutely insane, because you could be there in the pub with your mates. What are you driving at the moment, Paul? Well, driving a Maserati Quattro V8, actually. 105,000 miles, automatic box. The gearbox is as good as gold on these. Fresh MOT, great service history. Not full, but very good. Full book pack and lots of paperwork as well. The history's rather nice. Service book containing 11 stamps, the last one in June 2024, and a collection of receipts and invoices and older MOTs. It's just had an MOT as well. It means it's just ready to go. Isn't that a lot of car for the money? So I would say, be brave. And I say this a lot, and I do live by this, and I've got some really stupid cars that I probably shouldn't have bought myself. We're only here once. We've got the chance to enjoy V8 cars, petrol-driven V8 cars. And think how cheap you buy that versus what it was new. Look how much the new Maserati is. And again, with a personalised plate on that, nobody knows what age it is. It looks like a really nice level car. Just huge amounts of fun for not a lot of money. Jaguar. Here we are again. A lot of talk on Jaguar today. A lot of talk about Jaguar in the world around us at the moment. A lot of people saying, why don't they design cars like Ian Callum did? This is one of his fantastic designs, the XF 3-litre V6 premium luxury. What do I say? Don't lease a modern car, buy an affordable modern classic that can do everything, that has airbags and climate control and cruise control and all the things that you want from a modern car. Buy that for a few thousand and win at life, win at the system, basically. This has done 70,000, it's automatic of course, it's the premium luxury V6, it's got MOT history all the way back to 2013, 12 main dealer stamps from Hatfield, Jaguar in Liverpool, last service at 69,000, it's only done 70, it's done 1,000 miles since its last service, it's got 2 new Michelin Pilot Sports, and it's been with the current owner since 2013. Book, pack and wallet. It's a no reserve car. Do you know what? I'm going to bid on that just as a daily. That's fabulous. Look at it. And Ian Callum, at the height of his powers, doing amazing work. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I love the new Jag. I think it's very clever what they've done, but look at that. That is a very handsome car and very clever of bringing in all the old classical Jaguar EQs. You can see that, bits of that from the E-Type. You've got bits of that from many, many old Jaguars, including the old S-Type. You can see they've got tips to the XJ in there. That's a little hat tip to the XJ. So they're a very clever piece of design. So they're not a pastiche or like a neo-retro, like a lot of cars were, like the Beetle or the Mini. But it just brings all the design elements into what I think is a brilliant design. And you could and should run that every day. It's only 14 years old. It looks about 14 months old, this car, and you get to choose the price. So there you go. Well, thank you for joining me on our little walk around. A little bit of consumer advice. If you've got to the end of this very long video, do tell me. We used to do 3 1-hour videos. Now we do 1 3-hour video. What's better for you? Is it better to have 3 chunks that you can break up, or is it easier for you to watch one in one go? You tell me. We're here to do it the way you want us to do it. Either way, please leave a comment. Let us know what your favourite car was. Do like and subscribe and ring that bell. And if you see anything you'd like to buy, either online or in person, don't forget to register to bid, either here in our wonderful fixed venue or online. Either way, I'll see you Saturday morning.